Okay, calling the meeting of the Arlington Finance Committee to order. I'm hoping that we can make tonight our last meeting. If not, I will be ready to suspend the Mary Ronan rule if I think we can finish up in a half hour after 10. If not, we're posted to come back on Wednesday. So I don't want to cut anybody short. We've got to give every article and every budget proper due diligence. But I just wanted to let you know. Okay, first order of business is the minutes. Okay, Peter, up under budget for schools. On the second line, she started by introducing the attendees and by reviewing progress on the school expansion building. And then all work is expected to be complete by the coming December. I think you need to add in what schools we're talking about. I'm assuming we're talking about the Gibbs and the Hardy.
Elementary schools, sorry.
Okay, well, that'd just be the Hardy. And, but I think you could talk about the Gibbs too. So,
Right. That's right.
you know, because that's supposed to be finished in the fall also. So by reviewing progress on the school expansion buildings, all work is expected to be complete by the coming December for the Gibbs and the Hardy, or something like that.
Will do.
Okay. Okay, any other corrections? Okay, under budget retirement, down towards the bottom.
Yes.
On the second line, Greco warned on Monday that this may not be enough to meet the fully funded deadline. I don't remember him saying that. Does anybody remember how that went?
I don't remember at the last meeting, but I do remember when we were meeting with them, did they expect to meet it at this point? I think that what he might have been saying was if the economics change, the funding schedule might change, meaning that if there's a downturn. But I didn't hear it the other night.
Okay. Could you just take that out, that sentence?
Sure.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, they expect to meet it by 3 or 4 years if everything goes according to plan.
Okay, is there any other corrections or comments? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second?
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the minutes as corrected? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as corrected, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes are done. Okay, special town meeting warrant. I was able to get a draft, and I don't see anything in the special town meeting warrant that we need to report on. Let me just go through it quickly. One is the report of committees. 2 is the zoning bylaw on recreation marijuana moratorium. So I don't think we should get involved in that. This is the third article, to see if town meeting will vote to establish a committee to study demolition of historic residential buildings. So that's just a study committee. Home rule legislation, property tax deferrals. So this is to ask for home rule legislation. Right now, if you're below certain levels, I believe as far as income, you can ask to have your property taxes deferred until you sell your house. And then when you sell your house, the deferrals come off of the sale. So basically it puts a lien on it. And what this is asking to do is to raise those statutory minimums so more people would qualify. So it really doesn't lose money per se, we just, is a delay in getting it. But usually the amounts of money here are fairly small on that. Article 5 is home rule legislation for means-tested senior tax relief. Establish a locally controlled means-tested senior citizens property tax exemption, known as the circuit breaker. That's again, usually it's small dollars, not for the town as a whole, but obviously not for seniors. So I think the selectmen could handle that. Home rule package.
Is that an expansion also of the something here?
Would establish a locally controlled, means-tested senior citizen property tax exemption.
Doesn't sound like it.
So, to be local option circuit breaker program. So basically, to provide more relief for seniors, especially with being hit with all the taxes they're going to get hit by. Article 6 is on package stores, and Article 7 is gender neutral language. So I don't see anything there that we need to concern ourselves with. Does anybody have a different point of view? Okay. Then the selectmen could handle the special town meeting. Okay, warrant articles. Carolyn's not here. Parking.
Okay.
Brian?
Everybody received a parking memo last week. Basically, there was a little bit of adjustment to the amount of the offset from the parking district to the parking budget. The parking budget has been changed to reflect an additional $11,300 of expenses for other purchased services, and the offset has been increased, so the net bottom line does not change. The increase is because the collections of parking revenue is actually a little bit above what was expected this year, and they want to continue to increase the expense, which is what that line item is, line 5236, other purchase services in the parking budget. So it's a wash to the parking budget, but they needed to actually have a line item to be able to collect it when it occurs. There's a little bit of an anomaly between the two budgets, and that is the other purchased services for the parking collections is only for the multi-meter lots. It should technically be included in the parking district. At this point, it's not going to change anything based upon the way it is. Next year, I've suggested to the treasurer to take a much better look at it and to move the line up. So hopefully next year that line item will be gone, and so will the offset technically.
Okay, so are you recommend, let's take two, there's two things here. Article 28, which is as the memo from Sandy has spread out,
Correct.
with projected meter revenue of $450,000, offset to parking budget 1347,126, parking enforcement Article 20, 57,624, parking meter operations 167,605, projected expenditures 272,355, and available balance for parking related to be approved 177,645. So are you recommending that for Article 28?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take it one at a time. Is there any questions on Article 28, which is the parking district? Any questions on the memo from Sandy? Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded for the parking appropriation under Article 28, as I delineated it as sent to you by Sandy in the memo. Any questions?
Yes.
Peter?
So there are many numbers you just read off. Which one are we voting on?
We're voting on the whole thing.
Okay.
So do you have Sandy's memo?
I haven't, yeah.
Okay, so that's what we're voting on. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of the Article 28 as proposed by the by Brian and the Deputy Town Manager, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so favorable action, unanimous, 325. Okay, and then in the parking department,
Which is on page 70.
70, right.
If it's looking, that's the old budget.
Okay, so the offsets is going from 35,826 to 47,126.
Correct.
And the other purchase services is being increased by 11,300.
Correct, to 36,300.
And so the 76,904, the whole bottom line budget is the same. Okay,
Yeah.
is that your motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any questions there?
So, one more time, just the additional 11,300 is.
They're making more money than they thought, and this is for the collection of the cash. So
this
if they hire somebody to come collect
This
the
is
cash.
the fee for collecting.
I'm sorry?
The fee for collecting.
It's the fee for, to have somebody come out, pull the cash out, and deliver it to the town, or deliver it to the bank. That's the physical action of collecting.
Yeah. So the bottom line is the same. We're increasing the expenses by 11,300 for that. We're increasing the revenues from the parking district to compensate.
So, Brian, are we okay with the longevity?
If you want,
It looks to me like it's double counted.
I'm guessing it is at this point, but it's, like I said, it's how we want to handle it and where it's going at this point,
Well, so we think this budget's $1,100 too high?
I'm guessing. Just as you say it, it looks it.
Yeah, okay, I think the $1,100 longevity is double counted. I think it's included in the 69,551 and the longevity line. So if Brian confirms that, I'd like to reduce the parking salaries by $1,100.
Okay, so where,
So if you look at the salary detail,
right,
it includes the $1,100 longevity in the data input operator's budget, 69,051.
oh, I see what you mean, yes.
So it's included in the 69,551.
Yep.
Which travels up to the next line, but it's also included under that line. I think it's double counted.
Looks like it.
That's what I said, it looks like, but that's however you want to handle it. I mean,
What-
I want to get this done tonight the same as everybody else.
Yeah, no, the other budgets, it's not, trust me.
Well, I mean,
At least
if
I
it's in the
haven't
69,551, how about if we just delete the longevity? Well, we can take it out of
No,
one or take it out of the other.
I'd make it 68,
I mean,
68,451.
Okay,
Yeah. And I'll tell them that.
68,
It's usually base plus steps is
No,
what travels above.
I see it. It was.
Yeah. It's one of those.
Keep adding it up and keep adding it up, and
Yeah.
you torture the numbers long enough and they'll confess.
This is not gonna affect the offset, though.
No, that's not the offset. Yeah, the offset is
We're good. So we'll actually have a different bottom line.
yeah.
It'll be 11, bottom line will be 1,100 lower.
okay, so the bottom line is 75,805.
Right.
Okay, so, is that acceptable to you, Brian? Okay, so, we're subtracting $1,100 from the 69,551, make it 68,451. Bottom line of the salaries is 70,551. Expenses is
Is that-
52,380. And the bottom line is 75,805.
Yep.
Okay. Everybody understand? Good catch. Okay, do I have a motion? Second? Okay, any discussion, any questions? Okay, so motion's made and seconded for 75,805 on the parking budget. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous on 325. So that takes care of the parking budget and parking budget. Okay, why don't we do the arts and culture now? Hi.
Hi.
Now, if you remember, we have two parts to the arts and culture budget. One is the warrant article 35, and the second is the 15,000 in the properties and community development. The 15 there for a consultant. Everybody's had a chance, hopefully, to look at the budget. And is there anything you'd like to add? By the way, the cookies, the carrots, and the button-nuts are all for you,
Just for us?
within reason.
Thank you, that's very nice. Thank you.
Do you want to add in?
I don't know,
say
thank you
anything
for
about that?
reviewing the information. I hope you found it helpful, and if we can answer any further questions, let us know.
John?
Yes, I did find it very helpful, thank you. And it all makes sense to me. I just have one question about the budget, one line item. The cultural district coordinator and website, is that one person?
Yes,
And,
most likely. I mean, at least it's for that amount.
okay.
We don't have the
And-
person yet.
And, so this would be a consultant?
Well, paid as a consultant, but not, I don't know how much skills, you need web skills. You need web skills and administrative skills.
And what would they do as the cultural district coordinator?
Probably assist with the communications would probably be the most important part, because the cultural district has many managing partners beyond the core leadership committee, but it's got, it's kind of includes lots of businesses around, and the communication piece of it is extremely important and required by the MCC. So I'd say that would be really important. If there were something that they wanted to all do together, like an event or something like that, assistance in helping coordinate all the managing partners.
Thank you.
Other questions? Carolyn?
So is it more of a contract job than a consultant? So it'll be somebody who's fairly stable, they're not on a salaried position, but they're going to get a set stipend for the work that they do that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the amount for that person is what?
I think it was
It's 6,000.
6,000.
And that's part of the 10,000 that you used last year to do the work that you did to build out the website? Didn't you ask an additional 10,000 last year for consulting work?
That was, well, I don't, note, last year's budget was basically, one piece of it, like half of it was for the website and half of it was for the consultant, but that was for public art.
Consultant was for public art,
Mhm.
and the website. how
And the
much-
website was, you know, for the designer, the
Right.
person to create the website.
And how much does that cost? Is that,
That's 9,900, the
Okay.
website development.
okay.
For
So we're
this
down to
year.
For
6,000.
this year,
For this
this
year.
year. That was
That's
this
for
year,
this year to be
FY
used in June.
Yeah,
To be by
for the-
June.
Right, right.
Yeah, for this year.
So, so there's 3,000 of that money is going towards this position going forward. What about that other 3,000?
I'm not following you.
So if we last year gave you just under 10 to do, for a consultant design the website.
Say, this year.
For the year we're in right now.
Yeah.
And next year, we haven't changed that number. So you're still getting that number, the way it's set up now, next year, but you won't have that consultant anymore. But what I hear you saying is 6,000 of that going forward will be for the contract position for web person, for the web person to manage the website for the year. So what are you gonna do with the other 3,000?
I believe it's all written in the budget. I mean,
That's
it's
the,
all
yeah.
distributed. It's completely different distribution next year of funds. So it's not the same allocation. It's not like, oh, well, you're getting the same 10,000 for this year toward next year for the
Right.
website. Now the other money has different purposes.
Okay, so what are some of the other things that you're increasing the budget on?
Well, as we outline in here, we have marketing and evaluation. We have $2,500 for that because now we have to market the cultural district, so we're gonna need some print materials, some
And market the
posters,
website,
and
too.
market the website.
Yeah.
So we may, maybe
Yeah.
this banner that we've been seeing, Newton has a big banner.
Yeah.
Check our so we might do that.
Yeah.
We have programs and festivals, which is basically seed money for the cultural district. It's money that we can use to leverage larger grants to cover programs and festivals, things that we might want to do there. And also maybe hire, a particular coordinator for a specific event, possibly. I mean, depending on what it is, but mostly it's for that purpose.
Can I just stop for a second? It's appendix F. in there.
Yeah, Appendix F, that would, yeah.
This is the actual upfront IT budget.
Right, but I'm asking about comparing the two.
I agree.
Well, it's a little hard to compare them because it's a different
Yeah, there
year.
really is no
The layout of the
comparison.
year is
Everything they
difficult.
did this year is not there next year.
Right,
Yeah.
I mean, we're really building, this organization, as you asked us to do, bring all the arts groups together under one roof, make this really well-functioning, beautifully designed website that will be the front piece for everybody looking to what's going on here. And that's a one-time cost, that designing. The next bunch of costs will be to get people to know about that. It's huge, it's really important. We really understand how important social media is, how important print media is to get the word out so that people do go to that website that we really worked so hard on. So all of
Right.
these are very well thought out, I think, and really do follow so that the money that you gave us last year is very well spent, won't just go boom. It will be pushed forward so that we're really, very smartly using the money that we got last year.
Yeah, so what I do see here then is between the 6,000 for the cultural district coordinator and webmaster, the 2,500 for web maintenance, and then the 2,500 for marketing and evaluation.
Right.
You're basically taking the money that you had last year start to continue forward. That's what I'm seeing based on what you just said. And that makes sense to me.
Okay, good.
Other questions? Bill?
Just going to add, I think the last time we spoke, we presented, there was some ambivalence about how much should be put into developing a website. And I think some people weighed in on the lower end, and some thought a little bit more money might make sense. And I've been thinking about it, and it seems to me that $6,000 or whatever this comes out to be is not too much. I think it's important important, if you're gonna do a website, that you get it right the first time.
Exactly.
Otherwise, people won't come back.
Right.
If you start out and you keep adding to it and shifting it, and you start for money, the viewer is going to be aware of that.
Right.
So I think we should support at least that component of the plan for
Exactly.
a decent website and somebody that's, you can pick that's very skilled at developing and running it.
Exactly.
So I'm now confused between what work is being done and paid for in fiscal 18 versus what's getting done and paid for in fiscal 19. I thought the website development was being done out of $9,900 in fiscal 18.
That's
and
right.
They're going to have
Yep.
that website up in
Yep.
June.
Yep.
So,
And then maintenance of it, updating of it, and social
Right.
media and print media, letting people know about it.
so essentially the website development will have been done and paid for
Yeah.
by the end of this fiscal year.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a mock-up of one of the, I think, of the web page
One of
in
the
the
pages in
packet
there.
that was
You'll see
handed
how-
out.
Yeah.
Mock-up of the
Really
homepage,
beautiful
and there's
it
a
is.
site map,
And I know when you were here before, one of the questions that we asked, I don't think we got as complete an answer as we wanted, was what your projections of the traffic, the number of people you expect to come to this website. So basically the number that if you hit it or exceed it, you'd be really happy. If you went under it, you might be disappointed. Do you have any projections on the number of people you expect to be coming to this website?
Thousands.
yeah, thousands.
I mean, we're
but not
hoping that
exactly
everybody in Arlington and everybody outside of Arlington will come to this website. We're putting this calendar of events in there. It's coordinated with Arts Boston, which is a huge, Boston-based calendar. And we did that because we know that people know Arts Boston already. They already upload a lot of their events in it, so they're already conditioned to using it. We want people have to use it so that people will go and be able to find what they want in there. So it's a kind of chicken and the egg. We're spending the money, we're investing in Arts Boston because I think it's so important to have. This is what everybody's asked us for, a really comprehensive, well-working calendar of events. We've tried it before for no money. It didn't work because people weren't going there. We didn't know how to reach out. Now we're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and we had a
We're trying to rethink.
volunteer who then couldn't keep
Yeah,
up
just
with the
can't
work.
keep up.
Her
It
life
just-
changed, she got a full-time job, she had a
This
baby,
doesn't work.
and,
Yeah. So this way, this is a known quantity. It already exists. We don't have to do the back end of it. We're just hoping that people in Arlington, the people that run the events, the theaters, the music performances, and art exhibits and all that stuff will use it.
That's great, but
Anyway.
what I'm hearing is that you don't really have an estimate of what.
But they won't know
Volume.
that.
We don't know. I mean, it's hard to
Where
know.
would we get that estimate from?
Okay, wait a minute.
Thousands.
One at a time.
Do
Thousands.
something like develop a website, you would have some plan idea in your head of the volume that you expect. So for example, I don't know where this website is being hosted, but say you got thousands and thousands and thousands, you have the potential of crushing your infrastructure, so, which could end up driving costs. So that concerns me a little, that more than a little actually, that you don't have a concept of the kind of volume that you're expecting to get. And hopefully you will get thousands. Hopefully if you do get thousands, you can handle the thousands. But it's a little disconcerting that it's a little build it and they will come approach.
Do any of the other cities or towns in the area have a comparable website that does this?
Absolutely. Many of the cultural districts already
Well,
have
does
very,
Belmont?
very robust. Belmont's not a cultural district yet.
Cambridge,
Yeah,
Somerville.
Cambridge, absolutely, Somerville.
have that.
Yep.
So you
Native's
have a-
looking at recent.
Natick has one,
Natick.
Newton has one, Brookline has one.
Okay, so what are their numbers?
We really don't know that information.
Okay. Grant?
So these are, basically our points is that, I think we're all in the concept of website, but some of us have a some experience and background in some of this, some more than others and stuff. But when you design a website, there's goals to know whether you did the often website designs have some sort of metrics or goals or measurement about how functional and rich and comprehensive and what's actually happening with the website. The same way that we have these budget projections. The same way that you have a design for a building, that you expect the usage of it. So I feel a lot more comfortable with attaching an amount to that if this consultant or who's ever designing the site, I understand that it's not your thing, but if they had, metrics about quantitative finite goals about how well they expect the site to perform. That's another thing if you have sponsors and they just pay for it, and that's a different model. But if they're designing the website, what's the design? So I think it kind of parallels with it, not just the volume. Yeah, you do. It makes a valid point that if you really did get overwhelmed with, you'd get overwhelmed, and then no one would go to the website then either because it's always down. So more importantly, just to have some sort of schematic or design plan. It kind of reminds me of like the Yellow Pages. Everyone used to be in the Yellow Pages, but because you had to be. So everyone wants a website, but it costs a lot more to design one and to maintain it. So I have a hard time attaching any money to it because I don't know what and I appreciate you don't know, but maybe go back to your consultant and get, a design, a plan for that sort of thing.
It's already being designed, and it's halfway designed,
What are the
actually.
metrics?
Well, I mean, there will be analytics that are built into the website, but as far as like, what is the projected goal as how many that we plan to reach? Like we said, I mean, in the thousands, but we just, we don't really have that number. We could ask her based on her experience.
On what basis did they design it? I mean, when you design a school building, you design how many people are going to be attending it.
We based
You
it
can't just
designed
say, well,
on,
we
we
hope
based
it's
it
good.
designed on functionality, on what people were looking for based on the meetings that we had when we were doing the cultural plan. We did it to serve people's needs, but and then the marketing part of it is part of where we're
Is a
going to
big
get
part
the
of it.
people.
Marketing is huge. If we don't put it on
I
social
agree. Have a
media
marketing plan,
and print
yeah.
media, then it won't be
Yeah.
found. So a lot of this has got to be, this is why we're asking for this money going forward, for somebody who can really put it out there,
I
market
appreciate
it
that
out
and
there.
explaining why I have a hard time getting
Okay.
money because there's nothing attached.
Alan?
I appreciate it.
Well, I think, our response to these questions is just to ask, what analytics are actually being measured, whether, there's, usual click counts and what pages but click-throughs to commercial businesses. But more importantly, I think it's a question for the director. The website sort of has two goals. One is sort of a quality of life goal to improve the visibility of the arts and get more people. But there's also an economic development goal. It has some dollar amounts attached. In an ideal world, the increase in economic development would pay for the website, and even better, it would do it. What plan do you have to measure the economic impact of the website?
Not specifically measuring the economic impact of the website, though now that we are talking about it in depth, I think it sounds like something we should be measuring. And also I think just in terms of this conversation, maybe going back to the RFP and that process could help us to answer the question about what sort of guided the design of the website and then what metrics and sort of analytics are being used to then analyze the traffic. But in terms of how it connects back to the overall impact, that's something that through a subcommittee, actually, through the Managing Partnership for the Cultural District, we have a group that's actually working on figuring out all of the impact analysis for lots of different metrics. So looking at how much foot traffic is happening, how much money is being expended, how long people are actually staying in town. If they go to an art exhibit, what do they do next? So we're actually going to be analyzing a lot of different things as a result of the various efforts that we've been talking about. Adding to it, though, the website piece is something that we could certainly talk about.
It's tough in the first year of a launch. We don't, a lot of
all
things
of that's not
are difficult to measure. But I just
Yeah.
want to say that, next year,
Sure.
if you come back for another $11,000,
Yeah.
there are going to be some hard questions to answer.
Yeah.
So think about that ahead of time.
No, and I
Yeah.
think these are
What
really
data are you gonna come
helpful
back with
questions.
to justify the ongoing investment?
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
I think it's a great question, and it's one that we should put into our overall analysis and impact and understanding of things.
Like number one.
Like number one, yeah, I understand.
Bill?
I know we want to get with these, there's a lot of businesses that start out with nonprofit or for-profit that get seed money. And often people that go and put money in this case, we're talking about our finance committee, approving budgets, don't really know at the outset what's going to happen. There's always the hope that will happen, but I think what you're doing is you're building a very firm foundation. And there are more unknowns now than there will be in 6 months or 12 months.
Absolutely.
And you'll approach them as they come up. So we can talk about this for a long time, but I'm totally in support of giving you the money and going and running with it. And you seem very committed and very knowledgeable, and I'm sure I have great ideas on how to exponentially reach your audience. So.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, let me just get a couple of detailed questions down. You have a website maintenance for $2,500, cultural district coordinator and webmaster. Who's going to do this?
Hiring someone.
We're hiring somebody.
Contract.
Yeah, we haven't identified that person yet.
Okay, so that'll be a contract
Yes.
Yeah.
person. Could the consultant do some of this?
The one through the public art consultant, they
Yes.
might be able to do some of
Some
it,
of it
but
maybe,
not
but
necessarily all. I think
it's
the
really
one part
different
that's
kind of-
overlapping is the social media, where we
Yeah.
talk about there being a marketing aspect to the public art, not public art consultant, but arts and culture consultant, I think is how it's phrased.
Yeah.
That might be the overlap, but the technical background and expertise that's needed to actually get the metrics and the analytics that you're talking about, that's a contract with somebody else, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, and 10 grand of your whole budget basically is for seed money and matching. So you don't have that allocated at this particular point of time. When you went out with the consultant for this year, I assume you went out to bid through the town.
We did.
How many bids did you get?
Four.
You got 4 bids? And the 10,000 was the low bid, or?
There
For
were
the-
2 that were about in that range, about 10,000, and the others were higher.
Okay, so you had 4 bids. The thing which concerns me is where is this going? We went from 4,000 last year to 25,000 this year. Now you want 40,000. Where is this going to? And I don't see this as a core service of the town. So where is this going? If you say, okay, we're gonna hit about 30 or 35,000, and that's going to be level for the next 5 years, that'll give me at least a little more assurance, as opposed to saying we have no idea. We're going to see a budget of 60,000 next year. Where's it going for the next 3 or 4 years?
As we outlined in one of the areas of this document, we have several fundraising ideas. So I do think that I hope that this will cover us for a few years, I would say, definitely, because what we're hoping is that the website will start to generate money, will start to pay for itself with shopping and dining directories and businesses, who are paying for listings. We hope that we also have a donate button on the website, so we hope that will help.
And we're looking to try to figure out a dedicated income stream.
Right, that's a key.
And that's something that other arts organizations have really tried to do as well. I mean, everybody, it's always the same thing. You're looking for a way for it to be self-sustaining. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are hoping that we can try the checkbox on the water bill thing. If everyone in town donated $1, we'd be fine. We wouldn't be coming back here, I promise.
$40,000.
So even if we get
no-brainer.
half of that, that would be a big help. So I hope, we're trying to generate more outside funds, and we have a plan to work on that over the next year.
This year we didn't spend time to work on this dedicated income stream because we were so busy working on this website and getting the cultural district designation and dealing with all the other complete reorganization of all these arts groups working together. We've been really, really busy.
Okay, Jenny, do you
I
have
was just going to add. We have been busy. And actually, we really appreciate that the Finance Committee backed the $25,000 for this year, which is really what brought us to this point in time. And all of the things that we are talking about right now is because you had the faith in this group in order to get these things done. So now we're sort of in the process of moving things forward. I think it's fair to say, though, that what we're asking for as a whole, because I know you're putting it together as 40,000, is a reasonable amount to expect us to ask going forward, and that we would then use that amount to leverage other funds, which is what Stephanie and Adria are explaining in terms of, from other private sources and even public sources from the state, Mass Cultural Council and other entities. I think that that's a fair assumption, this point moving forward.
Okay, so do I get an assurance from the three of you that any requests going for the next 3 or 4 years will not be greater than $40,000 combined?
Can we live with that?
I think so.
If you're gonna say yes, then we'll say
Right.
yes.
I think that's
Sure.
reasonable, yes.
We have a long
Yes,
memory.
And it's on TV.
We see that, yes, and it's recorded, so yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Carolyn?
Okay, so basically what I'm seeing in looking at all of them is you asked for 25 for this past year, and you're asking for 25 again. During this current year, you've used that money to work with a art consultant and to design a website. And you're staying within that budget to maintain that website, and then, which will be $13,775, that's the website side. And then the other $11,225 will be for other programs. And so from my perspective, what I see going forward, you're gonna have to be spending around $14,000 to maintain the website. And then you're gonna have to stay within that 12,000 means for programs. Now, and I think this is great, because you've used something to develop it, and now you're figuring out how to maintain at an equivalent budget. Now, my question then goes into the other 15,000. And so I want to see a little bit more about that, or hear a little bit more about that.
Well, let's start, maybe the other way would be helpful, because if we
Okay,
have
go ahead.
the 15,000, if you just imagine that we're carrying over that, we're increasing her scope a bit, and working with planning, so 10 to 15, that's sort of a constant that we're carrying over from the previous year. What we've added is really money that we're going to need to launch the cultural district. That's a new thing, and develop more programs, which again are in support of the cultural district and our mission, just as to move the arts programming forward. So that's really the new part.
Tell me a little bit more about cultural districts. It sounds like Lexington, Cambridge, Somerville, Natick, some other towns have them. Is that a state sort of
Yes.
set program? So, okay. So tell
Jenny
us
can address
that.
it. Sure. There's a whole program through the Mass Cultural Council.
Right.
Which we're
Okay, so
getting
talk a
announced
little
on
bit-
the radio
yeah.
about.
So there's more than 40 cultural districts designated in Massachusetts throughout the state, various regions. It's a designation that comes from the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and with that designation, we have certain requirements, including, well, first of all, it has a specific geography. So the geography of the cultural district here in Arlington, and I think I sent around the link to the cultural planning page, which talks about all of these different things and shows you where it's located. So East Arlington through the center. And it lifts up a number of our arts and cultural and historic resources. So there's a component of promotions, education, and branding. That's back to promotions, events, and basically uniformity within the district, so that you're actually capitalizing on those arts and cultural amenities.
Is Arlington
And
a
it
district,
lasts-
or is it part of a bigger one?
It's not Arlington alone, but it's the Arlington Cultural District is from the center through East Arlington, primarily Mass Ave, but also including the Bikeway. So
Not the
those
Heights?
are the two. Not the Heights, no. It's not all of Arlington. It's a specific geography. And the Arts and Culture Action Plan covers all of Arlington. So it recognizes and acknowledges all of the different resources. Doesn't mean that we couldn't have another cultural district designated in the future at another location in town, possibly the Heights or some other location. But for now, we started with the cultural district as defined, as I mentioned.
And it was a 2-year application process.
It was a whole process.
We had to go through, focus groups and meetings with arts and culture leaders in town, and residents saying, is it something that you want? So before we did that, before we even applied, a huge amount of work and research went into that before that. And then we applied it. It took a whole year to get approval by the Mass Cultural Council because they were very specific about their requirements. So it's really an honor to be a culture district. We had everything going for us. We just needed this managing partnership, which is another great way in which we help to bring the arts organizations in town together that were never talking to each other. They were working like this, parallel streams, parallel advertising, parallel everything, but never together. And now all these groups are talking together, working on how they can grow and leverage the stuff that happens here in town together.
And
so it's really an important thing. It's huge.
The reason that we had that it took so long to get the approval from the Culture District was in part because of the uncertainty of the location of the ACA, but also the connective tissue between the East and the Center. We had to show them that we had intention, to work on that connectivity between the East and the Center, because normally their cultural districts are much smaller, more compact. It's defined as a walkable area with density of cultural activities, and in applying for the whole East and the Center, that was really a stretch for them, but we just couldn't decide because they both had such important resources. So that's where Cecily, the public art consultant's work came in when she programmed the bikeway, and that is really what helped us get the designation.
Okay, other questions? John?
My experience is sort of minimal in knowing about how to do a website. But I surely know after experience when they work and when they don't. So this is just a suggestion on my part, because I like your plan, and I'm really pleased with what you're trying to do for the town of Arlington. But I think you really have to stay on top of the development. You have to have the developer give you samples of how it's evolving, how it's going
Absolutely.
as you go.
We have it right.
Maybe you have that.
Constantly. We're in constant
Okay, let him
contact
finish
with
the
her.
question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, because in a year from now, if you come back and I don't see a nice website, I'm going to be perturbed. So please just go at it hard, because it's really important to you. You know how important the website's going to be. And
That's
there are
why
some
we're here.
terrible websites, as you know, and there are some wonderful websites. So please give us a wonderful website a year from now.
Don't worry.
I promise. It's not a year from now.
It's
going to be done in
amazing.
June.
Yeah.
It's going to be done in June. All the design
Fine.
is all done.
Okay, other questions?
You could bring it to the, let's say, to the town day. We have everybody's booth, and get some kind of covering, like an umbrella, if the sun's out, and you could show people your website.
Well, we're just going to advertise it then, for sure, yeah.
You can walk up and.
We could even show it. People can navigate it. We'll definitely be ready.
We'll navigate it right there, right then and there. I mean, there's hugely, very high participation in this event.
Okay, is there any other questions? Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very
Take
much.
care.
Thank you.
Have some cookies.
Thanks. I also gave you this, which is the article that is being discussed. Okay. we
Okay,
have all
that's
this.
good.
Okay, great.
Okay, Carolyn, paying classification. Now, I believe the only question was on the board administrator, that she's going, the position is going from an ATP 11-8, which is the highest step, max step, to what?
Class. She's going to an M1, step 5. And the rationale for this is because she goes to department head meetings. She is basically a department head. She has the same amount of responsibility as the assessor and the comptroller. She's in charge of a number of departments. A number of activities, including elections and polling stations. And she's getting the step 5 because she has been working in this role for over 10 years. And for the town, close to 50 years. And so that's why she's coming in at that level. The number that you see is her current salary, that 7771, plus, minus, or the salary she'll be going to minus her current salary. That's why that number is 7771.
So her current salary, or her future salary would be 96,978.
Yep. Any questions?
And she would no longer be getting her meeting stipend?
She would no longer be getting her meeting stipend. It's actually the difference plus the $2,000 stipend, to be exact. Passing those that way, take one chunk and then pass it along. Now take the chunk, take the chunk, and then pass them along. There, that's right there.
So, Peter,
Carolyn?
Yes?
Did Human Resources have anything to say about what happens when Marie retires?
Well, when she retires, that position will likely stay in M-class again because it's a department head level position. And the person they hire will have to have the type of skills and capabilities that Marie has.
60 years.
Yeah.
now, so could theoretically, we take the $2,000 stipend out of the selectmen's budget?
Yes. We should be.
David?
Is it not in, is it in salaries? Or is it in, stipends usually appear in salaries, not in
It's in salaries,
expense.
yeah.
If it's in salaries, it should be disappearing.
But we
Say that again?
can't adjust the budget.
If you look at the selectmen's budget, it should not have a salary listed. Well, it may, because it doesn't have the difference. It may need to stay there, because it hasn't.
My understanding it has to stay there.
It has to stay there until the
reclassification passes.
reclassification passes, so it may still be in there.
But I guess what you're saying is if you took her salary plus the 7771 equals the 96,978, and then next year she won't, but she will not get the $2,000 stipend.
It's within that 7.7.
Right.
The 2,000.
Okay, wait a minute, you can't have it both ways. It can't be,
There
so
won't be a
the
stipend.
$2,000 stipend does not get spent.
For next year, it will not, the 2,000 that is under salary will not get spent as a stipend. You're right, it will not get spent. I see what
Okay.
you're saying.
Okay, is there any questions?
Who still needs a copy? How far did they get?
To me.
Is that to you? Okay, I have more. I'm just sorting now.
Okay, so if I remember correctly, that was the real major question. And so you'll have that, I assume, in the email, in the wording that you send to Liz for the report.
Yes, it's here. The other, you want me to, okay, you want me to add a report. Take the whole thing and pass it to Christine. Yes, you want me to add a report as well as just the report?
No, I want you to, this goes to Liz for her to
Yes.
put in the finance committee report.
Right.
And that'll include all the stuff about the M schedule.
Yes, it's here. Yes, it is in the one that's going around. So you're getting a new one. I
Okay.
don't know that that's it. I think you're gonna get it from this side. Or did you steal Tom? Unless you stole Tom. Now, there was another one that was mentioned. This really shouldn't be that hard, guys. You know.
You never said we were that
It's the
bright.
$1.98s that are always very hard.
Sorry, I should have brought my
Never mind the
stapler with me
100
and
million.
just stapled during the last meeting.
Okay. Are there any further questions about this or any other element of the pay and classification?
There is another addition that Peter asked about last time, which was under the page 2, the adding page. E, the office manager, HHS, did not list what it was, what the transition was or what the class was. And it's an OA4 to an OA5. And that is on your new copy.
I'm sorry, which one is this?
Look on page 2, the page that says adding, the
Right.
following positions. E should be office manager, HHS, and there probably isn't any O or A classification. There wasn't any next to it, and now it says, did I type that wrong?
Mine says OA6.
Yeah, mine.
Okay, it should say OA5, correct that, and I will fix that.
What should it say?
It should say OA5.
Old
OA, A as an apple.
Where's the quality control?
Okay. So is everybody fine with the Part 2E OA5 and the first page, which is the reclass for board administrator from ATP 11 to M1? Okay, do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved and second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay, Carolyn, so you need to send this to Liz so she can integrate it into the report. If you could do that this week, I'd appreciate it.
Yep.
Okay, arts and culture.
Oh, okay, you don't want to do IT? That was the other thing.
No. We'll get to it, don't worry about it. Arts and culture. Okay, you heard, what pages?
3 pages. That's all 3.
Okay, Liz, could you appropriate money for a stapler for Carolyn?
Second.
Only if we get carrot funds.
Don't forget the staple. We'll do the staple for next day's budget, please.
Now, it seems to me there's 2 issues here. One is the amount of money, and the second is how do we structure this? I think the $15,000 for the consultant is under the manager's budgets planning so that a full-time person is supervising the consultant. Understandable. On the other hand, it splits it into 2 pieces. So there's 2 ways to handle it. One is to put the whole, if we do the whole money separate, put both things into this warrant article and add a proviso that any consultants hired under this article shall be supervised under the town manager. Or we could put whatever money you're going to put for the consultant under planning and community development and make a footnote here that an additional $15,000 is under planning and community development for this purpose. So we could do that either way. So let's talk about, so we got the 2 issues, money and how to handle it here. So John, Carolyn, David, Alan.
Well, I guess, so were we talking about the total amount, or were we talking about where to put the money? Because my question was really about where to put the money, and the question was to you, which is...
Tell you what, why don't we do money now? Why don't we do, how much money do we feel reasonable in appropriating for this purpose? They're asking for $40,000.
Okay.
Can we do it the other way around?
I would support doing it the other way, having a discussion on the other way around.
Right.
Okay, you want to do it the other way around?
Let's do the other way.
Okay, we'll do it the other way around. Pretty easy. John?
What do you see as the advantages or disadvantages of either approach?
I just want town meeting and the public to know how much money we're spending on this purpose. And if we put it in two separate places and don't cross-identify it, then we're sort of, just like what happened to us. That we thought, oh, good, the 25 is the same as last year, and then all of a sudden the budget came up and we have another 15 someplace else. I didn't like it when it happened to us. I don't think town meeting would like it if it happened to them. So.
And so the warrant article would say that the 15,000 is to be spent on a consultant to be managed
Under the jurisdiction of the town
by
manager.
department. Is that how we would do it if we were to put it all in one place?
If we were to put it all in one place, I think we'd add a proviso that any consultant, any expenditures for a consultant under this article will be managed by the town manager. And then he could choose whoever he wants to do it.
Which will be planning.
Which would be planning. Okay, Carolyn? I think you were next.
Okay, I think someone else was, but I'll go. So water bodies was the example that I could think of that was most like this. Because when water bodies is an article, correct? And when water bodies comes, someone from DPW comes with them every year. And it's very clear that she is working very closely with the water bodies committee. I know we don't have somebody assigned to water bodies, but Peter's wife is on the committee, so he might have some insight. And that I was thinking of that model when I was thinking of this scenario. My understanding is none of the water bodies' budget sits in DPW. She simply, as part of her job, works with that committee. And that would be my recommendation here. That
And
we
put the money in the warrant
put
article
money in the
and
warrant
have it
article.
supervised by the manager.
Yes.
Okay, David, I think you were,
Oh, yeah, nothing further to that, I support that. I think it's the right approach.
put it all in the article
Yeah.
and add the proviso.
I agree, yeah, I think it's the right approach for that language.
Okay, anybody else on that issue? Tom?
Isn't some of that money being, isn't some of that money going to planning? Isn't they sharing is it something different?
Well, that's, I'd say we pull it out of planning, make planning do exactly what the DPW does with water bodies.
So the new position that planning and the arts was gonna share, correct?
It needs to be within arts, is the way I see it.
So you wanna so have it that planning doesn't share it, it's all arts, and to be overlooked or supervised by the town manager?
Yeah.
No, well.
No, but we're not gonna specifically tell the town manager who he chooses to supervise.
Right.
But he will choose to supervise the planner,
Right,
because we know that.
right, 'cause just like with DPW, it's, yeah,
So that new position is solely for the arts?
right.
It's a consultant, though, it's not a town position.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
but it's for the arts.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Carolyn, does water bodies, do they hire consultants?
Peter, yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
hired people.
I think they hire all the time to do studies and things.
And does the DPW take an active role in managing those consultants?
They certainly do,
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want a part-time, volunteer board supervising I don't think in general it's a good idea. Okay, let's put this to bed. Anybody else on how it is set up? The recommendation I'm hearing is that we put the whole money into the warrant article, but have any consultant supervised under the jurisdiction of the town manager. Do I have a motion?
So we'll move.
Second? Any further discussion? Grant?
Logic of that, so the budget that they submitted, all of that just goes under the warrant article.
Right.
Just like it does with water bodies.
But currently, they have a budget.
Well, they have, we have an appropriation, we got the budget. I would have preferred to get that a couple weeks ago, but
Right.
hey.
Okay, all right, thank you. Good.
Okay, anybody else on that? Okay, David?
So we
we're taking that warrant article and we're making that warrant article instead of 25,000, 40,000.
Well, that's to be decided after we finish this. Right now, we're just deciding that it all goes in the article, one place. And then after we finish that, then we'll have a discussion about, because we never argue, but we'll have a discussion about how much money should go here. Okay, all those in favor of the motion of putting everything in the warrant article with any consultant supervised by the manager, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Dollars to Article 35. Okay, now the good stuff. A couple of general thoughts. $40,000 or $25,000 does not matter make or break the town's budget. However, we do have a due diligence to make sure that our money is spent well. And you know, going from 25 to 40, it sounds like there's some, I won't say extra money, but looking at the 19 budget, while you do have about 11,000 or so for the warrant article between 3 different line items, you've got about $10,000 of seed money on this. So the question is, do we give them as requested the 40,000, last year's 25, or something in between? The committee, David.
So I think that I mean, I wasn't here for the whole discussion, unfortunately, but what I gathered from the previous discussion when they were here was that the website in particular and the opportunity to market that website could be a fantastic economic development tool for the town. Like if it really does what it's supposed to do, which is to aggregate all the cultural locations and things, you could start attracting more people to come to Arlington and participate in small businesses and everything else. I think that could be a boom for the town of some, maybe not a boom, but some modest economic increase, which would be all good. That being said, I would couch the additional 15 as a delay. Like if you can prove between the volunteers and really making the website what it is with the 25,000 that they have budgeted, that you can generate more economic activity for the town while providing a cultural resource, then we'd be open to maybe increasing your budget to do more the year after. But I think going to 40,000 now is too much, personally. I think though that if they can prove this is a real economic activity generator, we should consider that a year from now. That'd be my recommendation.
Okay, Bill, and then Alan, and then Peter.
I think I agree with what you said in so many words, Al, something in the middle. And in the middle, if you take, go directly to the median, it's 32.5. And if we put 32,500 in, that will show them that we're taking this seriously, and we expect them to take it seriously. And then next year, there's just a delta of $7,500, right? So you talk about the next budget. So that would be one idea, was 32.5 and call it a day.
Okay. Now let's not put hard motions on the floor yet until we have some discussion. But that certainly okay, Alan.
Everybody knows, I think the design cost was outrageous, but that's water under the bridge. Let's make the most of it. I actually think the annual roughly $10,000 of maintenance to keep it updated and fresh and whatever is probably realistic. It's the $1 tree deserves a $10 hole philosophy. And I don't mind spending a little more money this year as seed capital. But I would like to set an expectation that the maintenance costs would actually go down. We're looking for a metric to value, to evaluate the website. And the websites like this that I've been involved in have, maybe not the first year, but they've rapidly become self-sustaining through a combination of donorships, advertising, donations, crowdfunding is a powerful tool these days. So somehow, whether it's 40,000 or 32,000, I would like to have a comment in there that says this is not. Don't consider this to be an annual stipend to support the site. Consider it to be seed capital, and we expect the site to be approach self-funding within a short period of time. And in other words, if a website like this can't attract sponsorships, then it's not very valuable. If it is valuable, you'll be kicking sponsors out. Look at Channel 2, for example.
Okay, Peter.
Nothing's been said this evening about the action plan that the towns supported last year. And was released in October, in August, I mean, and the Board of Selectmen approved it. And it laid out what was hoped for this this activity, and it mentioned that it would need a new town position. Now, they didn't say anything about that here, and it seems to me that that we're getting a bargain in the short term, at least. Maybe that'll be needed in the future.
Okay, Grant, then Carolyn.
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, I agree, it's water under the bridge, but, Alan, but you know, the other side of that is, so you don't want to shore up a building, you don't want to pay a lot of construction costs to shore up a building that has a poor foundation. I actually think they might want to spend money on a business manager consultant. They're great artists, but I don't know how much business. But if you use the sponsorship model, I didn't hear a whole lot about that. But at the same time, how do we measure how well? You've seen website plans, and some of us have seen website plans. And in my previous life, I would have gotten shot on the spot if I didn't have these metrics in a meeting trying to propose to get money for this sort of stuff. But I wasn't an artist, and these people are promoting art. But some metrics about the content shall be, shall be within, 3 days, or some measurement about how timely it is, because how do we know how it's just so many empty things, but yet at the same time, I'm all for the cause and would probably support some sort of amount, but I would like some sort of measurement at some point by these folks. Thanks.
Okay, I think, Alan, after we get our FinCom report, we're working towards a letter from you on what we're going to be expecting for next year to go out to them.
I'll be happy to write the.
Okay, good. Okay, John?
To Alan's point about how we expect to see some savings, at least in, website maintenance. I mean, we heard from them that in response to Al's request that they're committed, that they're willing to commit to level funding for the next few years at least for a growing initiative.
I said 4.
I didn't hear them answer, say yes to 4, but I heard something.
What minute is that?
But I think, and they're committing to level funding for what is hopefully a growing initiative, which means they're going to have to find savings somewhere. And so I think if we want to avoid them coming back each year for more money, that rather than give them less this year and let them come back for more next year when they, because they have somehow justified those additional expenditures, I think we should hold them to that commitment, fund them at the requested amount, and then hold them to that commitment to level fund and achieve savings and sponsorship, outside revenues, whatever, to offset the cost of which is, again, going to be a growing initiative, which is going to cost more money.
Okay, Carolyn?
So the 15,000 that's going to planning is not simply consulting for the Arts Council.
That's right.
Some, a
Yes, it
certain
was
amount
supposed
of
to
that.
be consulting.
No, but
But,
hang
no,
on.
but a fair amount of that is to manage the requirements that the state places on an or in any, cultural center. I forget what it's exactly called.
Just cultural district.
The cultural district. And so if we want to maintain that cultural district, which is what will help drive people to the site and help make everything more cohesive, we have to fund that $15,000 at some amount. I don't know if that amount is 15, or if it's 5, or if it's 7.5, but we won't be able to maintain the cultural district status and the Massachusetts state requirements for that if we don't put some money into that. Because if we don't, we either lose the website or we lose the district status.
David?
I mean, well, I guess for the benefit of the town, this is really important to the town for economic activity and just, general promotion of town activity, as well as hopefully some economic activity, grow sales, and, just increase business activity. So what's the difference? We have an aggregate website aggregating all the amazing cultural events in Arlington. With or without the designation, we still have a website that we're actively promoting that is doing all those things for the town. So it sounds like that's the first issue. That's the first benefit, right? Whether we have the status or not by this cultural commission, I'm not, maybe that's not as valuable. I don't know.
Well, but we did just get it, so we have the status now.
Yeah.
And that's a 2-year application process, and so if we lose it, we have to start the 2-year application process.
We know what we get. What that designation gets us?
That was that whole packet that she handed out. She had the one copy of that packet that she handed around, and they gave us the PDF, and they gave us the PDF version of it. So we did get that in the mail.
I mean, I'm assuming it has some significance.
Well,
Go through a 2-year process to get it.
So, no, that was from the Mass Cultural Council, but for the 5,000, they paid 5 and they got back money. That's what this was.
Okay, Brian, you have?
Well, it was going to be around the same question because I'm not hearing anything in regards to the person that's being added, or whether they're a consultant, an employee, or whatever.
Oh, it's a consultant.
Okay, well, a consultant to me means that they're working outside and they have nothing to do with the town. That's what it is.
They're not a town employee.
Okay, I'm not sure what the significance is in this, and I didn't hear it enough, except I was just listening to Carolyn, to vote for that. I'm happy to give them the $25,000. They had a $10,000 expense that has been reduced this year, in this year's budget. I presume it'll be reduced a little bit next year as well. They have some seed money in here. I'm not much for giving them much beyond the $25,000. At least I don't hear the argument for it.
Okay, John?
I think one of the difficulties that we're having about all this is that there's so much uncertainty. We just sort of don't know very, very much about how well they're going to do. So I think we ought to fund their budget as requested because I've been impressed with how they have created their space in the new building. They had a great fundraiser for that.
Wait a minute, John, that's a different organization.
But it's many of the same people.
Well, but it's separate.
I know, I understand, but, I've been impressed with what they're trying to do, and I think we should, one of the reasons I think we should fund it this year and then look really carefully about what the results are in a year from now is because I think we should give them the support that they're asking for and then look very carefully at what they do in a year from now. And then see what that is, and if we want at that point, cut the budget. But I think we're not talking about $1 million here. It's no big deal for this town. I think we should give them the support this year, see how it goes, look carefully at that website, see if it is a good website, and then come back next year and be really careful about how we fund it.
Okay, I don't think we're getting a consensus here. I think we need to pick a number that we feel reasonably comfortable with and do it. David was the first one to raise his hand. So, do you want to make a motion?
I'd support 25,000.
I second it.
Total.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the motion is for $25,000. So let's take that vote. If that motion follows, that's what we do. If that goes down, I'll be expecting a new motion from somebody. All those in favor of $25,000, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Motion fails.
I'd like to make a motion for $40,000.
Second. But I would, I don't know, and maybe this is where Alan's letter comes in. I would like to see if we can stipulate that they come with, detailed metrics and analytics. Next year.
They don't have the ability.
They should. If
Well-
they've been running for
Well, wait a
years,
minute.
they should.
Next year.
Could you just speak to that?
Yeah, I'd support $40,000 with an amendment that clarifies that this is seed capital, and I would actually, I would propose an expectation of $30,000 next year, with the expectation the website has a year to become self-sustaining. Because that's the clearest metric. Are people willing to put up $1 or $2 to support that website? If you can't convince both the business community and the citizens to put up $10,000, the website's not doing its job. I don't care how many clicks it gets.
Okay, one at a time. John and then Mary Margaret.
I agree that we should have an expectation that there would be outside funding step up and support this effort. But I think we have to acknowledge that this is likely to be an expanding effort, an expanding initiative. And I think it's unreasonable to both expect them to reduce their spending with, outside funding but not be able, and then fund a growing initiative. I think you're going to need more money, and that more money I would hope would come from outside funding. But what you're saying to them is you need to fund an expanding effort at the same amount.
Yes.
And
Seed cap.
I think that's
Seed
an
cap.
unreasonable expectation.
Okay, so we have different, Mary Margaret?
I just was remembering, like I said last time they were here, that they had claimed the first time when they had the consultant, that the consultant would bring in her salary or her pay in grants. And then to see if that happened again this year, or how they think that's gonna happen. They didn't do that, but I'm still hopeful that what is 15,000 for the consultant that she could turn that around into grants so that, it's revenue neutral. So that I'm hoping that person can do that, and that's why I'm suggesting that, yes, we keep it at the amount that they asked for, but if that consultant doesn't do it.
Okay, Grant and then David.
This might be a lead-in or something, I'm not sure, but I thought there was talk 2 years ago about sponsor type of website or an advertising type of website. And I hear that a little now about future sponsors, but could more easily support the money if there was a plan saying this is how we're going to go about getting sponsors. This is how we're going about getting advertising, let alone how much they would expect to get from it. So I'd be, again, more inclined to support it if I saw that, but we're not seeing it.
Okay, at this point, I think I'm going to have to write up something to go with this, since we have sort of diametrically opposed motions, and we really need to pass on.
Well, we have
But
one-
let's
we have one
take
motion
this.
on the floor.
I'm sorry?
Motion for
We have a motion on the floor.
We have a motion on the floor, right, that we're gonna vote that.
Yeah.
That's easy. It's the sort of conflicting expectations thereafter. So I'm gonna, I've been listening to everybody, maybe I can write up some of a comment for this.
Could I offer a comment as an amendment?
It's not, it has been denied as a friendly amendment. He already said it's not a friendly amendment.
Let me, let's get the motion, voted on the dollars. You know, I put forth to them that we'll see this, you know, sort of level for the next couple of years. I think they semi-agreed to that, even though I don't know if it would hold up in a court of law. But let's do the motion has been made and seconded for $40,000, which would all be in the article with the appropriate provisos.
Is the amendment basically just a clean 40 with at this point no?
I think right now it's, okay.
I think that your amendment was just 40.
My motion was just.
Motion was just
$40,000.
40.
For fiscal year 19. $40,000. Clean.
Okay, that's the motion. It's just a clean 40 on that.
But
John?
There's no reason why there can't be a comment in the Finance Committee report along the lines that you're talking about. What we expect, sort of, you know, what our expectations are. This is a kind of seed money kind of thing, you know, it's a significant amount of money, et cetera. Some
May I
thoughts like that are, I think would be perfectly appropriate.
May I propose a potentially friendly amendment?
Yes.
You're gonna
Is it a grenade?
Okay,
or what?
guys,
I propose that a flat 40, all, as we've said, all in the warrant article, with the understanding that over the course of the next 3 years, similar to water bodies, they will show up at Finance Committee each year and give us an analysis of both expenses and revenues for that fiscal year. Is that close enough?
You'll forget.
Oh, well, that's why I'm having them. Right.
What if they didn't?
I can certainly accept that as a friendly thing.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, David?
I mean, just a comment, which is that that's a different, I mean, that's your amendment, but I think it's different from what you were arguing, which is.
Right.
It is.
You're arguing, or we're gonna expect you to hold it flat, and you're arguing, we're actually expecting you to drop your costs over the next, like, 2 years. And, I mean, I just wanna make one comment. If I'm any other commission that's asked for my normal 5,000 or whatever, and we just gave this one 15,000 just for fun, and let's be honest, like, they didn't show up with the same, you know, budgets and everything else, we had to pull it out of them, just for the record. Some of the comments that were made tonight were much more informative than what they brought to the table. That's just my observation. What's to stop everyone else from asking for another 1,000, another 2,000? Because they could justify, if I'm the Human Rights Commission, it's human rights guys, what's $3,000 bucks?
Uncle Sam.
You know? I think we gotta have.
Okay. Let me just do John and John, and then that's it, and we vote on the 40 with the, you know, with the 3-year projection, and we'll revisit every year. John?
If I may say so.
By all means.
Yeah. We have a long history with youth services, okay? There was a time when I used to have to beg this committee to fund, this is many years ago.
Yeah.
And then they figured out how to fund themselves, et cetera, and now it's a going concern. And so, you know, we don't have to do that. We're not in that situation with this organization. You know, they're finding their way. So we think it's a good idea, so I would suggest we just support them. And I think relative to what you're saying, it's going to happen anyway. We're not going to let them come here without a really good discussion. So, you know, the friendly amendment, I think, isn't isn't necessary, but if you
Well-
wanna have it, that's fine,
Yeah,
okay?
except that they tried not to show up this year.
Oh, but we're not
Because it was
gonna let
a
them
flat
do that
amount.
next year.
And so I want them to understand that
Yeah.
as we are doing with water bodies, they should be coming each year.
Okay.
Even if the budget's flat.
Maybe on the basis that it's a new organization and
Yeah.
we're looking carefully at how you evolve. Some comment like that might be good.
Okay, John?
Yeah.
Pass.
Okay.
It's getting late.
Okay, all those in favor of the $40,000, with a comment that we're going to be looking to revisit this issue on a yearly basis, looking for long-term projections. All those in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. All those in favor, raise your hand. 9. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. So I'm going to write this up. I'm going to send the FinCom report out to everybody, I don't know, sometime a little later this week. So, hopefully my comment will get close to that. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Last article in the warrant is Article 46, and then we'll start on the budgets. Okay, Article 46 is the override stabilization fund. Now, 47. Now, I'm going to ask for some authorizations at the end of this, but let me tie this in with one of them. And this sort of goes along with what we usually do, except I don't have Dean Carmen here to make the motion every time. The latest number we have that has to be taken from the override stabilization fund is $2,758,860. That's $2,758,860. Now we arrived at that with Alan and Sandy by Sandy plugged in that the manager's budgets, if you look at the 5-year plan, plugged in that the manager's budgets will go up 3.25%. And with that and all the other things corresponding to it, that means we needed $2,758,860 to balance the whole thing off. Now this is money coming out of the override stabilization fund. However, if one of two things happening, either that the local aid numbers on April 11th, when the House Ways and Means Committee comes out, if we get a little more money, that number might be able to drop. If we don't get as much money, that might go up. So I'd like to vote on that number. Well, let's vote on that number first. So does everybody understand where it's coming from? John?
What was can you read the number again?
$2,758,860.
It's minus 2 million.
That's minus.
Right.
It's money coming out of the fund. So we are operating a deficit budget this year.
I noticed that number's smaller than what was in the town manager's 5-year plan.
And Bill will be able to explain that in a few minutes.
Thank you.
Health insurance came out better than expected. Okay? Carolyn?
When was the last time we took money out of the stabilization fund? Do we know?
Well, it would have been the last,
5-6 years ago.
well, it would have been fiscal 2010, 11?
Just before the last override.
Yeah, exactly, just before the last override.
So 7 to 8 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, for a 3-year override, not bad.
And have you been putting money in each year?
Yes. Okay, so is there any other questions on that amount? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Favorable action, unanimous. Okay. And then the authorization I request on the override stabilization fund is that Al and I be allowed to modify this amount by any last-minute adjustments from state aid, from House Ways and Means Committee, and any other unforeseen happenings. Okay, second?
Good luck. Can I suggest an adjustment to what you just said?
Okay.
Not or, but and. Al and Al.
Al and Alan be allowed to modify this number.
Please.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, favorable action unanimous. Okay, budgets. Budget book, DPW. Now we got natural resources. That's health insurance. We've got two health insurances. So if everybody could go to DPW, highway motor equipment repairs. 106, yeah. I've got so many odd pieces of paper.
Yeah, those are few.
Okay, carrots to balance off the chocolate chip cookies. Don't forget to give one to our cameraman.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
He's been helping us all.
Okay,
Carrots are great.
okay, back to order, rowdy crew. Highway motor equipment repair sales. Tom, what's
Okay,
happening here?
We met with Mike, DPW director, and talked about the motor equipment repair working foreman stipend. He came back and made an adjustment and took it out. So the previous total was 431,531. When we took out the stipend for the foreman, now the new total would be 425,484. I'm assuming everybody got the handout.
Okay, so you can see we discussed before the 6047. So they went back and took it out.
Took it out, correct. We would be actually okaying the new total of 425,484.
Okay, does everybody see this?
Yep.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. 5, that goes in there. And you had natural resources?
425,484.
Okay, what page is this on?
What?
Natural resources.
Oh, turn to page 90. Page 90.
Okay,
Okay, so basically during our conversation with DPW director, Christine had noticed that the outer grade pay had dropped down to 1,590 compared to 2018, which was 9,110. To Mike's surprise, he really couldn't answer that. He put it as a communication problem with Sandy, and it's in the book now. He was willing to leave it there. But we asked him to go back and make sure, because we didn't want you to come in the middle of the budget and ask for it. So he went back, discussed with Sandy, and they did put it back in. So the total had went from 1,568,271 to the new total of 1,576,681. They put back the put back the $10,000 from the previous year. So we'll be voting on the new total of 1,576,681.
Okay, so they basically missed something that should have gone.
Correct.
Should have gone up.
It should have been there. Correct.
Should have been there.
And he was willing to take it out of somewhere else. So, but we told him to go back and revisit it.
Okay, is any questions? Okay, there was a mistake made. The committee corrected it. Subcommittee corrected it. Okay, do I have a motion?
No.
Second. Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 325. Okay, that takes care of DPW. IT. What page is that?
$37.
Okay, do we have a new IT page? Carolyn, do we have a new IT page?
Yeah, you were given the new IT page last week, and you are going to make a change to that page.
Okay.
It is, well, I gave you copies last week, hold on. So what's going to change is if you look on the back side, on the salary side of IT, you will see, that there are 2 vacant positions in IT salary that state telephone operators. We are removing those 2 positions and minusing that total by 48,122, which, sorry, I forgot to do that now. I did really understand. Brings the 530, 520 to 482,398.
That was the original number.
Yes, and it was the original number because the original number didn't have these salaries. They were over at the comptroller's side.
I see, okay.
And then you're going to flip over to the expense page, and the 4th line item is 5215, and it says telephone expenses, and that will be our new voice over IP phone system, which is basically a digital system. And you're going to add the 48,122 to the 50,000, which brings that total to 98,122. And if we come down to the bottom, we're going to add that in there as well. adding in the $48,122 from the salaries on the previous page into this line item, which is line item number 5215, which brings that line item to 98,122.
So we're eliminating 2 positions but we're just assuming that the expenses
So what's
increase by the same amount?
So what's happened is, in the past, due to the way things were back in the good old days when we had black dial phones and switchboards, we needed phone operators. We don't need phone operators anymore because we're switching to this digital process. Those 2 phone operators have retired, which is why the positions are vacant. We have been carrying a telephone expense cost within the comptroller's budget. We've been budgeting about $70,000 consistently year after year. The cost has been closer to $50,000. And that's why you suddenly see this new line item in the IT, because the phone system is now run through IT. It has been for a number of years, but we're finally making that switch.
Right, that was the 50,000.
That's the 50,000 that you see there.
Right.
And if you look back at comptroller, you'll see it was 70,000, and then they dropped it to 50 this year. What we're doing is, because we have that money for telephone services, and because we are making this big change, he's adding the 48,125 to his operating expenses, which in the long run will mean less money coming out of capital expenses. He's gonna spend that money anyway. He's spending it on this new telephone system. They've started to roll it out, they'll continue to roll it out. There's a chunk of money from capital expenses. We've got the money here, so it's a telephone expense, so we're just throwing it into expense.
So are the cost of the new voice over IP system, are they more than 50,000?
Yeah, it's a big project. It's been ongoing for a couple of years. It'll go ongoing for a few more years.
He needs the additional 48,000 from the.
Well, if he doesn't get it
personnel
here,
item.
he'll get it through the capital fund that's already been allocated.
Well, is this transitional? I mean, is
Yeah.
it always gonna be up at 98,000?
Not necessarily, no. No, probably not, because it's been around 50. Go ahead.
You said it's been appropriated in the capital budget, so does this reduce the capital budget by
Yeah.
48,000?
Right.
Do we need to revote the capital budget?
Oh.
No, oh, no, no, I mean, he won't end up having to take that much money out of capital
Okay.
in the long run. If he has it here, then it already exists within the operating budget.
It would be wonderful if we could show the taxpayers some savings.
Okay, this is the 3rd week in a row I'm dealing with these particular numbers. He's paying for the high school system out of his current FY18 budget. So that will happen. That's what we were originally gonna do. We were gonna take this 48 and spend it on that.
You still gonna do that?
He's doing that over April vacation in this current year budget, not next year's budget.
Good.
So that's why we suddenly have this extra 48.
Okay, so the total is what we were spending before,
Yeah,
which is the 50 plus the 2 telephone operators.
right.
Okay, so let's go down the page then. Salaries and wages will be,
Hold on. So, because this number, because the longevity's in here.
That's the original budget, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is the original budget. 665,111, is that what the original budget was?
No,
Did I do the math wrong?
I think 650. The original budget was 650,263 in the original budget.
Yeah, no, I didn't do the math wrong. I mean, I'm just taking this number and minusing it by 48,122.
Well, if we take if we just use the original budget numbers, 650,263, 1,000, and 1,384, because that didn't include the telephone operators.
I'll be correct if you do that.
Oh, okay, am I doing it from the wrong place? What number
No,
should
the
it be?
original was
482,398? Where am I?
Oh, the total, yes.
Yeah, the total was 665,111.
Yeah.
That's in the original budget.
Oh, which is
650,263.
502 what?
63, which is the original, which is the
Okay.
original number.
Well,
Sorry.
it does match the original budget, 665,111.
And it should.
Oh, I'm
It should.
doing it on the wrong one, I'm sorry.
And when you subtract, you get 665,111, so it all works. Math wins again.
Okay, and then we're adding to the 385,653 plus the 48,122. Anybody do that math?
433,775.
433
775.
775.
And then the bottom two are the same. Televisions. Same as the revised.
Okay, so it's 917,172?
Yeah.
When you subtracted the 48,122 for the two telephone operators, did you include their longevity?
They didn't have any there shouldn't have been a
Oh, there's no longevity,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I did check that.
Okay. Okay, so the bottom line, 917,172,
Stays the same.
Yeah.
stays the same.
Oh, because
Okay, so overall, we've taken 50,000 in telephone out of the controller's budget. We've taken 48,122 of salaries out of the controller's budget, past that. Then we've put it into IT, except we put all of it under expenses to get the new telephone operating system up and running. And their bottom line number is 917,172.
yes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Questions?
And so we don't have to change the capital budget?
No.
No? Okay.
I just heard a heart thump someplace in Egypt. Okay, any further questions? Okay, for IT, 917,172, all those in favor, please. I'm sorry, Grant?
I do have one other question. Were you gonna check on the offsets on this one and see that they fully came from water sewer?
It's HR that we have the question.
Okay,
And they
great.
did the HR
We can wait till
one,
we-
yeah, we'll get to that.
Wait till HR.
But the other one nobody asked yet was, what about Informix? When are we getting rid of the Informix line item? And we have to maintain the Informix line item until we convert ICS water and sewer billing to Munis utility billing. The utility billing finished up in December will finish up in December 2019. Two other dependencies are replacing or modifying soon-to-be unsupported AMR, automated meter reading system, and replacement of the meter management system. And So we might have an informants line item for another 2 years, not just 1 year.
When you say no longer supported, you mean the metering technology that they just put on not that long ago is no longer supported, or that it doesn't interface
With Munis, maybe,
Munis.
or with yeah, maybe they had it attached to informants when they put it in, and they're transferring it over to Munis.
Or you're running two systems simultaneously
Right.
until the one is fully implemented,
Right.
and then you get rid of the other. Any other questions?
I did-
Peter?
Could you just verify that that's Informix line item is where the 98,000 goes?
No, it does not.
Where does it go?
It goes under telephone,
Telephone expenses.
5215,
5215.
right?
Oh, it stays in the controller budget.
No,
No.
no, 5215 for IT.
521, oh, it's a new line item in IT then?
Yes.
This year, yes.
Oh, I see, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor of 917172 for IT, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 25, okay. Planning and Community Development. Anybody remember what number that is?
It's page 74 and 75.
Okay, I come up, if my math is correct, for a bottom line 558,808.
Yes. Yes. That's what it is.
Okay, so we're taking the 15
1,000 out.
out. That becomes 25,195. Planning appropriation total 641,517. Bottom line 558,808.
Correct. So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions? David?
So this budget also has the senior transportation planner in it. As a new position. I was thinking, but in the management
It does
letter,
have a new position.
It's a new position.
Which the manager discussed a little bit in his introduction.
Yes, at the first meeting, 6 weeks ago.
I talked to the committee that on, what's it called, the traffic committee.
Yeah.
And they said, yes, that this would be very helpful to have somebody concentrating on traffic.
So what will they do?
Surveys, and Jenny wants them to look into a local bus.
Local bus?
So like the Lexington bus?
Like, something like that.
Well,
It's, if I could, it's more than transportation. We think transportation, we think cars and trucks.
Yeah.
This is more than that. It's part of the master plan, is the way I understood it. It was talked about. My understanding is most communities are going this way with a transportation planner. But just don't now you're saying you can include bicycles, who knows, as far as transportation for the future goes.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, the letter, I think that the Adam wrote to us kind of detailed that this was in response to, you know, the different traffic apps that are out there that help you navigate like the side streets and what to do about it. So, but what you described sounds a little different. We're talking about community buses.
Well, I don't know about community buses, but it's part and parcel of transportation. So they're gonna look at all avenues. You're right with that letter too, but the way, the planner kind of made it broader than Adam.
What does the town like get out of it? I mean, do we get, I mean, in a year, are we gonna see, you know, more one-way streets? Are we gonna see speed bumps? Are we gonna see stop signs? Like, what can I tell my neighbor that $80,000 is getting?
I can tell you what it got in the past. It got the redoing of Mass Ave, all the way, especially the intersection of Route 60
Yeah.
and Mass Ave.
Yeah.
There was 2 phases of it that came in. So they actually have new pavement all the way down to, and new lights all the way down the Capitol Square.
But we did that without a senior center.
No, what I'm saying is, that was all done with a volunteer committee.
Yeah.
And there's an expertise that is required that isn't there.
So we pave streets.
It's not just paved streets, it's everything. It's not just that. There is a large number of things that go into it. Like, first off, you have to have bike lanes because it's state required, but if you want state money, you don't want state money, you don't have to have a bike lane.
Right.
So there's all sorts of things to get grants in to get the state to pay for things. It's actually quite complex.
They're also investigating, I understand, the notion of a dedicated bus lane on Mass Ave.
That would be
So
good.
they need to put planning effort into that.
I'm just saying, it's way more complex than
Cars
just
and
that.
trucks.
Yeah.
Right.
Traffic signals.
But I guess this is like, okay. So, but is that in the job description? Like, we've all have great ideas, like it could be a bus lane for Mass Ave, you know, it could be, you know, finding state aid for funding. Is that in the job description for this senior transportation planner?
I haven't seen the job description, but I have, what I said was Jenny's summary of it.
Yeah.
They put an article in the Advocate about that position, why they wanted to have it. It was a while back.
Oh, okay.
But the bus lane, the dedicated bus lane, the dedicated bike lanes were all part of what they do.
And you said, the app that you said, Dave, would be connected with a bus maybe. That might be a way to service people.
But in the letter, it talked about ways, like, you know, solving the ways problem, like, you know, ways of putting all these cars on the side streets, like a one-way bus, you know. Yeah.
Alan?
Well, in terms of doing without it before, I think if you look at past expenditures, we've been spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on outside consultants, you know, DHB and other transportation consultants. So I assume that someone's figured this would be a net savings to have. There's always transportation, so every time they go to school or do whatever, and we send a lot of money out to third parties. So I'm assuming this would save some money by bringing at least one FTE in-house. I don't know the numbers, but it's not like we haven't been using transportation consultants. We've just been paying outsiders all the time.
But this is a good, I mean, this is almost, the analogy is the Art Commission, right? So to your point, should we write in the, you know, our buying committee note that our expectation would be that outside consulting for transportation should drop to 0 because we have an in-house senior transportation planner?
I think we should see an expectation of lowering that expense.
Right, I mean.
I agree, it should be a net benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, they should just say, here's how much we've spent in the last 5 years on consulting. You know, here's that, all of that would have been eliminated if we hired this one person.
I don't know if you could go that far though.
Well, but I guess that's my point. We're asking to hire someone. We've generated in this room a set of ideas of what that person might be able to do, but we haven't seen from anyone else. We saw like a brief description in the manager's note about what the person might do that, but we haven't seen as a saying, look, if you give me this person, I can put this many more, like, you know, improvements onto the ground faster. I can bring up this much more state aid faster. I can do this many surveys, and here's a I mean, here's the net benefit to Alan's point, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that the role is basically to have the town be able to develop a strategic outlook on transportation instead of sort of more episodic.
But, so.
Get a consultant for this, get a consultant for that.
But that's different, right? I mean, so just to be clear, if I play out your scenario, which is different from what everyone else described.
But I think it lines up with what's in Adam's
No,
introductory letter.
but let me come back to that. If you said that you're hiring this person to come up with a strategic plan, what I'm hearing is can I have the peanut gallery here, you know, for a second? You know, just, gentlemen, the bar is open down the street if you want to go grab a beer. But like,
money for that.
Okay,
Oh, I
guys.
didn't have to free.
Let's focus here. It's been a long night.
But I'm just saying that's different. That means that that means that the head of the Department of Planning will come back here in a year and ask for more money for hire a consultant to help the strategic planner do a master plan. So that's how those get done.
Well, I mean, I'm not an Adam's head, but I just don't think you can make the assumption because we're hiring this guy at $87,000 a year.
Yeah.
Means that that's gonna wipe out all the transportation consultants we might need in the future.
I don't disagree, but it would have been to Alan's
I was
point.
reacting to that.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't, Peter, could you go back and see if you can get some answers to these questions? In other words, what is the, what are the detailed assignments this individual is going to get? And will we be able to do all of the work in-house now instead of outsourcing for consulting for highways or for transportation?
I have a one paragraph here,
Okay, read it.
which might save a day or something.
Okay.
Why do you need a transportation planner? The senior transportation planner will work to devise and implement neighborhood-based and town-wide transportation plans that aim to address increasing neighborhood traffic-related concerns and to advance a number of transportation initiatives and advance long-term transportation goals, including decreasing congestion and providing people with the ability to move easily about town and beyond. The planner will also work on planning for bus rapid transit and autonomous vehicles and work in coordination with the Transportation Advisory Committee and that's the group I couldn't remember the name of, and coordinate with other departments, boards and commissions on larger transportation projects across town. Last, they will serve on regional boards to assist with advocating for transportation.
Does that fill in some of the blanks for you, David?
So it sounds like they'll need an expense budget to travel and go other places because they're gonna serve on regional boards. They may need a,
The board has a,
yeah, so that's, you're sort of saying that's covered, so any expenses to execute their job are fully
let's
covered.
hope.
Well, I just worry that this is gonna come back, and then a year from now, they're gonna say, guess what? To really do this, here's what we really need. You know, and then we're gonna be, and then it's gonna be a priority like everything else. I don't know, I mean, I think a paragraph is, I just think there could have been a better net benefit description, you know, that really spoke in dollars. Maybe those dollars could be tied to commuting times or other things that, you know, people are facing or traffic issues that people are facing. What could we practically do about it? You know, like. If we
Okay.
have- Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, but-
So, we have a potential no. Carolyn, I'm
Yes,
sorry?
you have a motion to pass this number.
He's asking the exact same question I asked when we started the recycle person. He's asking all of the same questions about that particular person and how that person was gonna be working with the committee on recycling. And they're all valid questions, because we don't get the information, that we don't see that information here when that happens, and we don't get follow-up later. So, we've been here before.
Yeah.
Well, is there any other discussion on this budget? Okay, I think there's been a motion and second. Okay, motion's been made and seconded for 558,808. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All those in favor, please raise your hand.
something about being the peanut gallery.
Well, that was my bad.
All opposed?
Right here.
Okay. Motion carries. Planning and Community Development is done. Insurance, Bill.
Okay, couple of things. Liz sent out a 15-page PDF of materials we're waiting to help the healthcare budget. Everybody get that on the machine? Well, it's not a page. It was sent by email.
Yeah, there is, 160.
Okay, I'm sorry, yeah.
Sorry.
Page 160. So that's the first thing. I want to make sure everybody got that. Second thing is, I handed out, and then Liz helped me hand out, a revised group health insurance budget. And the new, just so you don't mix it up with the old insurance budget, the new budget is $16,627,282. So if you have that, you're on the right page. Okay?
That was one of the handouts.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna run down the lines of, I'm not gonna talk extensively because of time constraints, but some of the things that are important are things that stick out in terms of the delta versus last year we can talk about. First thing is the workers' comp. You'll see that's request of $540,000, $40,000 increase for 8%. So the deal with that is every year the town's required to cover all full-time, part-time, seasonal employees. It's the Massachusetts Workman Compensation Law. We have an in-house attorney, Edward Marlenga, who looks at all the factors and comes up with a budget. So it's really, we were handed the budget. And I can tell you what's behind the budget this year for fiscal 19, the $540,000. It basically, and the letter from the attorney is part of that 15-page packet.
So you can't open it, by the way.
Yeah. On my phone?
That's still the higher number.
So very briefly, taking into consideration all the loss and claim factors, increased number of town employees, injuries, pending litigation cases, he's recommending $540,000 for fiscal 19. I did read the full letter. I have no problems with it whatsoever. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer them. Okay? All right, so next is the Medicare penalty. So Medicare penalty is $18,000. It's the penalty we pay for keeping employees on past their age 65. So an employee doesn't have to pay for the Medicare and associated GIC premium. That's every year, and didn't change from last year. Next is the opt-out program. I won't go into detail. If anybody wants an explanation, I will. The insurance group health. So what's interesting is the reason that this got delayed so much this year in terms of meeting and having discussion and now my presentation is that there were a couple of insurance companies that were trying to opt out of the GIC, and at the last minute there was some stuff going on within the Commonwealth, and these insurance companies stayed. Basically Blue Cross and Tufts. But my point is that we went from, it would have been an increase of $492,000 or 3.2% to actually a decrease of minus 2.15. And the group health is really, it's a lot of things all rolled into one. You know, it has to do with several different plans. Some plans go up in premium, some come down in premium. Employees choose what plan that they want. Some plans that are less expensive are ones that favor more employees. Town pays 75%, the employee pays 25%. 2 years ago, it was 80-20. Just past year, it was 78, 20, 22, whatever. So it's still a good deal for the town. It's still a very good deal for the employee. And at 75-25, the other thing is that Karen Malloy, who's head of Health and Human Services, does an excellent job with her staff. They really look closely at the GIC. This is the Government Insurance Commission, or the Group Insurance Commission, to see if it's a good deal or if they should go back to the old plan, which they probably won't go back to, but that was called the healthcare fund. The healthcare fund is still in existence, because if they do decide to go back to that, there has to be a balance with which to kick that off. The Employee Health Mitigation Fund, the goal was to get up to $200,000, so there's been no change. It covers any medical costs that exceed the maximum out of pocket. So an employee can be reimbursed if they have a catastrophic illness or accident. They don't have to go broke. And so far, they haven't had to go into this $200,000 mitigation fund for the last 3 years. You can see it's straight line. Insurance group life, very basically, the town historically has purchased a $5,000 face cash value insurance on every retiree. And they pay the premium. The town pays the premium, that's what you see in terms of the budget. And we're in the third year of a 3-year contract, and a new contract will begin next year. But this particular benefit is ongoing. $5,000 death benefit for a retiree. Medicare payroll tax, pretty significant increase. A big part of that increase really is Medicare raising its FICA rates, both Medicare and Social Security, and that there is a pretty big bite for the town to absorb a lot of that cost, and that, along with an increase in workers in the town, came up with a 18.17% increase. Flexible spending account or benefit plan are all the plans that are administered by the insurance group here in the town, and it's still a good deal for the town because there is participation from town employees into things like the flexible spending account, the HRA, others, several other accounts that are part of their benefit package. Just a quick word on offsets. That was sent out also, but I don't know if anybody wanted to know how we arrived at the $670,000. There's a copy. Basically, it is a combination of health offsets for water and sewer, but then also broken down by town manager, information, legal administration. There's actually a very complete rendition of the components that make up the $670,956. You should have that on your server or your computer. If not, I can make a copy for you.
And it'll be handed out next budget we do, so part of my attachment.
Oh, great. All right. So with that, I'd like to see if anybody would like to make a motion to accept.
Just to make,
Yep.
so it looks like the bulk of the savings are in the group health insurance line. Originally that was gonna go up.
That's correct.
493,000, it's actually going down. So is that driven by, what's driving that?
Okay, that's a great question. what that's driven by is, again, I have to give a lot of credit to Karen Malloy, who runs this department. Her staff meets individually with every employee. 65, almost 2/3 of enrollees use one of these three carriers: Harvard Pilgrim Independence, Harvard Pilgrim Choice, or Tufts Navigator. In all three of these cases, all three of these carriers, they had a small to 0% increase versus last year. So for example, let's throw out one example. Harvard Pilgrim Independence went up 0.30%, whereas Fallon Select Care was up 3.87%, Fallon Direct Care was up 6.90%, Health New England was up 4.90%. So there are three very good carriers that were going to leave that actually stayed. They stayed in the system.
They weren't gonna leave, they were, GIC chose.
GIC,
not to. And then all hell got loose.
Yeah, well, I wasn't around when the ultimate was, but you're right. There was some things going on there. But I recognize these names from last year, and I know that that's part of the reason that the premiums are lower, and 21% of the employees have one of these three.
So this is with the July rate? The
Yes.
rates coming, that will be effective
Yes.
this July.
Yep. Okay, so with that, is there a motion to accept the budget of 16,627,282 as printed?
Oh, you can make it yourself.
Okay, I move. I move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I didn't get it done yet.
Any questions? Grant?
One quick question. Yeah, I thought about when you mentioned the group life survivor benefit. Do you know how many employees work for the town?
Actually,
we do.
Now, do you want with the schools or without the schools?
That's right.
I think it's about 800 with the schools.
Well,
but-
they said about 335, roughly.
That would be in the debt insurance.
Right,
All
so
employees.
335 or all employees?
All employees.
So it'd be
For the town budget.
roughly 800.
No, it'd be 800 plus 335.
Okay.
335 is the 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
8 to 900 actually.
Well,
Now-
the number of,
Oh, yeah, 800
Okay,
FTEs.
good enough. Thank you.
number of teachers is 346.
And this would have to cover retirees too.
Right. So the budget also covers Medicare expenses for retirees.
Other questions? John?
Just a short comment for those of you who may not have been on this committee for very long or at town meetings. This budget used to bleed us to death. This used to go up 15–20% a year, which is atrocious. And I'm so glad that it's finally under control.
Thank you, Brian. Not you, Brian.
Okay, any further questions or discussion on the group health insurance budget? Okay, all those in favor of 16,627,282, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll have to abstain.
Oh.
See how I'm
Joyce and Ken?
Really don't have to, but anyway. All those in favor of the budget, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All opposed?
Put up your hands and feet.
13, 0 abstaining. 1.
Now put your hand up.
Come on. Yeah.
Okay, liability.
Okay, so. Liability is unchanged from last year. Requested budget is 531,818 with no change. I'm sorry, page 161. So the liability insurance is basically indemnification. It's for catastrophic insurance. So let's say a building burns down, a fire truck catches on fire. These are things that are out of the ordinary in terms of insurance. Unemployment compensation covers various claims of all kinds. This is first level of claim by employee or a former employee. Officials' liability covers flood insurance. I believe it also covers the acts and liabilities of town officials. If they get into some difficulty, then there is insurance claims. Property insurance, police cars, vehicles, buildings, with $100,000 deductible. That's been unchanged for a couple of years. Any questions?
Do we have a motion?
Do I have a motion to accept
Second.
the budget of 531,818?
Any questions or discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, reserve fund.
Reserve fund. Okay, so the reserve fund, I actually worry that this is kind of a misnomer, the reserve fund. Carolyn and I had the opportunity to sit with Sandy Cooler for a good half hour, 40 minutes, because I frankly did not understand the reserve fund, even though I've been talking like I did understand it for the last 4 years. The reserve fund is actually an appropriation, and the appropriation used to be formed by members of the Finance Committee, I'll say Charlie and Al. They came up with a number that they thought could be used or might be used for those department budgets that might need it, snow and ice being the top of the list. A couple of years ago, it was decided to move this to a fixed factor, which is 1% of the total town revenues. And that's where the number comes from. So if you see the budget for 2019, the $1,553,287 is the factor of 1% times the projected revenue into the town of Arlington. Now, each year, after there's been expenditures or money pulled from the reserve fund, it goes to zero until the next year when a new number comes in. So there really is no money there per se. It's there, but it's not there. And the other thing is that if there is funds left at the end of the year, it goes into what's called free cash. And for an explanation of that, Ryan has offered to maybe say a few words on free cash.
He's going to give out free cash?
Yes. Well, first off, I think we all understand that free concept.
It's not free and it's not cash.
But, does anybody have any specific questions?
No, go ahead.
No, does anybody have any specific questions? That I would think this is the committee that deals with the reserve fund and the free cash. I would assume that most of us are up to speed on it.
Are we gonna admit that it's not free or cash?
It is free. It's free in our budget when we want to spend it the following year. And it's up to this committee to decide it.
Okay, any questions?
So if anybody has any questions, I can tell you where the funds have gone last year by department, but the bulk of it, 80% was snow and ice. So can I'll put a motion to accept the reserve fund as printed, $1,553,287.
I move or seconded?
Any questions, discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. 325. Okay. We have 3 budgets left. Water and sewer, recreation, and rink. Is that correct, Alan and Peter?
That's correct according to my list.
Okay, Alan, you agree? Okay, so we can start those now, and I'm not sure how long it'll take, or we can come back on Wednesday.
finish it now.
Okay, Grant.
Okay. Here we are.
Wow.
You know, I was going to bring yellow stickies, so I could stick them in their book when I track down the offsets, but I left them in the car, so. One of the reasons to do it last, or just turns out we did it last, is that there's all these adjustments that would have changed it anyway, particularly when the health insurance budget. So here we are. We pass out the revised budgets. Not the ones in your book, but the revised budgets.
Did you three-hole punch them?
I did not.
I
I stapled them though.
Stapled them, though.
I did,
Unlike
right.
some
For
of
the
us.
record, for the record.
He used his own stick.
And there's more. So I'm passing out the budget, and I'm going to pass out the now famous explanation that we used last year. And some attachments, 3 attachments, one of which includes the one that Bill had mentioned that was used in reference to the insurance budget. No, because then everyone meets in the middle. Oh, I see that. You can't have to wait till everyone gets in. Yeah, there's 3 each, and there's 3 attachments.
I guess the first, yeah, start with this, all right?
Okay, so when all is said and done, we're all passed around, we should have an updated or revised budget. We should have a
Tom.
explanation of it,
Tom.
and we should have 3 attachments.
4, well, technically 4. Oh, well, yeah.
Attachment A, B, and C. And then, no.
Thank you.
I'll give you these. Okay. Okay, yep.
C's going around.
These 3. I thought we voted on like the first night. He says we haven't voted on these 3. Which is pretty.
Sure we have.
Thank you. 20, that's 20 here.
Jesus.
I think we voted on 36, I don't know. 36 is just.
So while the attachments are going around, the water and sewers are enterprise fund, and most of you have gotten to hear this already. One of the things that just makes it a little more difficult is it just doesn't seem straightforward, and it doesn't even seem straightforward in how it's labeled. We call it water and sewer, but it shows up in the budgets as sewer and water. Something about the S being before a W in the alphabet. But it shows that way in the budgets and the water articles, so that's just the start of it. What happens is the MWRA charges us a certain amount called an assessment to provide us with water and to get rid of sewage. And that amount comes out every year. Usually, Mike says it increases something around 4%, 4.4%. And so the deal with that is that that's how much the actual cost of the water and the cost of getting rid of the water. And then we have to, deliver it via a system and deliver the sewage via a system in the town of Arlington. And we have to pay the people who do that. So those are all the costs of supplying water and sewage. And then at the end of it, we have to adjust the rate for the sewer rate so that it matches that amount. So it has that strange anomaly that the more we conserve, the more our rate's going to go up. But the more you use, then your rate's going to go up. I mean, your assessment's going to go up. So So we have all the attachments around, and we've got all these
We're
things.
about
So what I'd like to do is if we could start with the budget. And what I'm gonna do is skip to page 169 and pick off the low-hanging fruit. There's actually 4 budgets that are contained within this. And we're gonna go to page 169 and storm sewer collection. I'd like to start off with this one. Pretty flat budget, hasn't changed. This is to maintain the storm sewers.
I'm sorry, are we starting on page 168?
Move 169.
Oh.
And, again,
Okay.
storm sewer collection, it's ST, which is after sewer collection. This sort of helps explain why it's listed this way in the budget. And why, you know, kiddingly, maybe annoyingly, refer to it as sewer and water. So here's the amount, total storm sewer collection is $276,000. Stays the same as last year. You know, the big thing that keeps, the big X factor in this is, you know, if one of the storm sewers, if they measure these outflows and they find bacteria from sewage in those outflows, as opposed to just, you know, runoff and other bad qualities, but if they specifically find bacteria from sewage, it means that there is a leak in the sewer pipe somewhere that's leaching into it, and they have to go fix that. And who knows how much that's ever gonna be or how much it's gonna cost, we can't see it, so it's very unpredictable. So one of the reasons why I increased the rehab storm sewers up from 200,000 last year, but in general, you don't know what it's gonna be, so it's a big X factor. It's one of the things that could come up at any time. But in any case, here's the budget for 276,000, and I, ask for your support and make a motion to approve this amount.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? Okay, Grant?
Thanks. So that was the low-hanging fruit. Now, we have to work toward the, we're gonna take the explanation in hand. This makes it a little less straightforward because we're combining 2 different divisions into one in 2 different places. All right, so the first one is going to be in the salaries and wages. And well, I guess that's the way to start is let's look at page, if we take a look at page 168, where the sticky can come in. Actually, so water, sewer collection system, which is 168, and water sewer properties, which is 171. Now, those are the budgets that we're going to approve, but I'm going to ask you to take out attachment C. Which is what I call a consolidated old school accounting. Consolidated attachment C.
The last page,
Oh, here it is.
More around.
What is it, Chuck?
So there were 3 attachments, attachment A, B, C.
I got A and B.
So that was, wanted to make sure, who's not having attachment C? Okay, so pass these around.
It's a landscape.
We're not voting on this budget, this is just for representation purposes. What happens is, we split these amounts 50-50 in some of these budgets, and people don't understand where it comes from or where we get the amounts. So if we take a look at attachment C, this is actually the road, is the road map that connects the offsets with all the rest of it. So attachment C has a consolidated sewer collection and sewer properties amount And when you total them together, is 1,038,688. And when you divide them in half, they're the salaries and wages that would appear in sewer collection system, which is 519,334, and in sewer properties. So we can take one budget at a time, but I wanted us to understand where the 519 came from for the sewer collection system. Now, if we take a look back at attachment C, what we do is we break down those salaries and wages in accordance with algorithm that's in attachment A. We divide this into 4 non-water or sewer departments that are within the DPW. And what this means is that there's people that work for the DPW that help support the water and sewer system that don't work directly for water and sewer. We have to account for their salary and time somehow, and this is how we do it. Another old school accounting term is intercompany transactions, except this is in a public domain, so we're using the words offsets. So if we see, we add up this is where the yellow stickies would come in. Again, on attachment C, if we go down to the little bottom section where I have salary and wages detail, it lists these departments and the page numbers from the original budget for anyone who wants to go and check. Christina and I have already checked them, but you're welcome to do it. You see the amounts for engineering that's offset on page 94, and the DPW admin portion. Now, just to make it a little bit extra complicated, the total of DPW admin offset is the combination of two funds. One is the water and sewer, and the other is $35,000 from the recycling revolving fund. So the DPW admin portion is $241,513, but you'd notice that the total admin offset for DPW is higher. Then on down, we go to listing on the highway department as an offset because they use the equipment. And that's on page 102, and that's 417, et cetera. And then they have to repair some of the motor equipment. These people don't work in water and sewer. So that amount is 166.31, and the total of that, in this lovely Sudoku puzzle, is happens to be the total of $1,038,687. And if you divide that in half, that's the salary wages that they assign to the sewer and collection system. So that's the first fun part. Are there any questions about how we got to that amount? Okay. The next set is the indirect charges. And we're going to have this fun because we're going to, these are split between sewer collection system and the water distribution system, which is different than the wages, which were separated by the collection system and water sewer properties. So we kind of throw them in different divisions, but that's where the amounts go. So on sewer collection system, page 168, still going on to indirect charges, we have these workman's comp costs and workman's unemployment compensation, which stays the same for every year. And every year I ask Sandy, after the budgets have been printed, what these amounts are. And every year he says, the budgets are already printed, you should ask me back in September and October. And every year I don't. But they stay the same every year, and we all have a various speculation about why they're there. I, having worked in antiquated accounting systems, have the feeling that you need those amounts in there to have the accounts open originally, and they just never moved them out. That's just my speculation, though. So the total of all of that impact is only, in this budget, is $7,500 in an $11 million budget. So that's the best explanation we have for that. But the next ones, we have much better explanations. Those are the retirement costs, health benefits, and indirect costs that are, again, split half and half between sewer collection system and the water distribution system. Now, if you look on attachment C,
Will there be a test after this?
Take my half an hour.
just a vote.
Okay.
And if we want, we could just move right to the vote.
No, keep going, this is
Okay.
thrilling.
All right, tried.
It's so exciting.
Believe me.
We can't wait.
I know.
Climax of this.
It's the highlight of my day, John. I always like to wait till last.
I'm waiting for the movie.
Right. So in any case, again, it's tie in the Sudoku puzzles, how these numbers are, how we arrived at these numbers. But if we look at attachment C, we see the retirement costs and how they tie into page 158 on the retirement budget for the total of, $1,139,952. When you divide that number by 2, it equals the retirement costs within the sewer collection system budget of $569,976. And same goes for the health benefits, and I've listed that below on the little attachment C, which is new this year. But that total is $679.55. Now that's the portion of DPW, not the other enterprise funds, or the total. But if you divided that by 2, you would get to $265,179, that you see 50% allocated to the sewer collection system under health benefits. Now the good news is that we're gonna see this very same thing in another budget, and you're all gonna know where the numbers came from. And just to make it even more straightforward, we called indirect costs. The indirect costs are actually the retirement costs, health benefits, wages, and salaries for non-water and sewer, non-DPW departments, which are overhead, like the selectmen, like IT, like the various departments that are listed under indirect costs. They're a little bit different. They're listed on here for those that like to go through and tie out the amounts. They're actually listed in page order, and those of us who suffer from CDO, or actually it's OCD, but they're in the right order, CDO. And they tie in with the page numbers, whereas the handout that Sandy provided, which has the algorithm, they're not in the same order, so you'd have to cherry pick. But so if you add all those up, you get $678,436, and you divide that by 2, and that's the amount that's in the indirect costs for the sewer collection system.
Question? Why is the selectman number there, 25,636? In what way is the other selectmen in this budget?
They're probably the water and sewer commissioners. They set the rates.
Oh, I see.
They do all that.
Okay.
That's a great answer by the chairman. My answer would have been, well, they paid some consultants, and then last year I think he brought in the report, and that's what you see on attachment 1. That's the rates that they came up with, and selectmen probably hired those consultants, but just the same. So that's how the numbers are derived. They went out and got somebody to decide how it ought to be done. Okay, so any questions on indirect charges for sewer?
How do line 5713 health benefits? I'm assuming there's no overlap with the health insurance done for the town over health and human services. Is that right? So what can you give me an example of a health benefit?
No, I would ask the person who does the health insurance for that. Just explaining that how we pay for those health benefits. How we pay for those health benefits comes from the water and sewer budget.
Back to you.
It's water and sewer.
Yes.
Also, I think it's also the rec. And I don't think youth services, I'm not sure about council on aging. So each of the enterprise funds
This is their.
pays for their own health insurance for their own people.
Okay, thank you. I have a question.
Yes.
Al, how long has the water and sewer department been around? Did it have to come about at MWRA when we joined that, or how long has it been around?
I think it was created and all this was set up about 82 or 83.
Okay, then my question is, on the retirement, should it be including how much of the unfunded liability for the pension, if any?
I think this only
Because.
covers their active.
Because according to the chart, the total cost for the current year contribution to retirements is 1.6 million, which we have from the retirement board, and there's like 9 million. for
So are you
catch-up.
saying that water and sewer should also be paying for the unfunded liability?
No, I think it shouldn't.
I'm not sure it does.
Well, only to the extent that there's retired members on it.
Yeah. But I'm not sure it's probably, okay, I'm guessing here. I know it pays for the health insurance for their own, for the active employees. I'm not sure if it's paying health insurance for its retired employees.
But also, I assume for an allocation for everybody else,
Yeah. Okay, Grant?
Well, the retirement fund contributes almost 42,000 to the total health insurance.
Well, the total current retirement is 2.6 million. We have in here for the current year, a little over $1 million.
Right.
So that's half the town is in here. If it's only current, which we know that there are retirees in there.
In that case,
So
it's
some
probably
portion
paying
of
for
the
a
unfunded
retiree,
liability
too.
has to be covered.
Yeah, would be my guess. Why don't you continue with the budget, and then you could, when you have a chance this week, ask that question: does the retirement allocation also pay? Does the health insurance allocation also pay for retirees as well? And you could email that in. But why don't you go on?
Okay.
Don't stop.
If I don't write that down right, I have to read my writing tomorrow. Who knows what questions you can actually answer.
I'll remind you.
Thank you. Okay, so we've understood a little bit better, not exactly the application, but we understand how the indirect charges are arrived at. So now we have the rest of the budget that's a little bit more straightforward. Sure.
So where you have on here indirect costs broken down, it's the bottom right, so the
Attachment C.
quarter on attachment C. Those are actually the offsets, correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All in one place. And the page numbers where those offsets would show up.
Okay.
So the next section is sewer collection expenses, and this is very similar. Again, it's very flat, hasn't changed at all since last year.
Which page you on now? Where are you?
I'm sorry, back on 168 on the sewer collection system budget.
Okay.
And what we did is explain the first two portions, which are actually mathematically derived, and the rest of this budget isn't mathematically derived. But it's pretty much the same. I shouldn't say mathematically derived. The MWI assessment, which goes up 4.3% this year, well, that's derived from MWRA. And the final section is the debt service sewer capital. And this is where we have the loan and debt service from the MWRA. This is, I think Alan mentioned that they charge us extra and then they loan us back the money, interest free. And then the final item is the sewer rehab for $100,000, and that was the
ties into the warrant articles where we had, we were borrowing a certain amount, we were using 100,000 from the water sewer budget. So I have a total for the sewer collection system of $11,073,988, and I move that we approve this.
Second.
Any questions? You see also the NWRA assessment changed from the budget, the manager's budget, so things always change. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 325. Grant?
Good, and now we move on to, we go past the sewer collection system, because we've already done that one. Well, let's go to next page, 170. This is the water distribution system. So the beauty of this budget is there's actually salaries tied into this budget. That show up at, I guess, page 173. And let's, I guess, take a look at that one. So the salaries went up they went up $5,000. Not a whole lot. I think the big increase here was the out-of-grade pay. That's not interesting, right? The out-of-grade pay. Now it looks high because 179%, but it's
Pretty small number.
4,100. Question and answer that we had on the out-of-grade pay. So apparently he increased the amount to actually match the actual expense. Because prior to that it was always going behind, and it was last year. So he raised it because that kind of matches what actually they expend for out-of-grade pay.
That's an interesting way of doing it.
Are you sure this isn't the money set aside for cost of living?
What's that?
Is this money set aside for collective bargaining and cost of living?
Which, the salary increase?
Yeah.
No, I think he means out-of-grade pay. Out-of-grade pay?
No, there's an out-of-grade pay line item,
Right, and
Oh, I'm
there's
sorry,
also a
backwards.
salary increase.
which is unusual.
Yes, that is,
Out-of-grade isn't necessarily unusual,
no.
because things come up. So then you have to pay people and you haven't planned on paying them. So we see them in a couple other budgets as well for that reason.
That's about 3% of the total salary.
Sounds like a cost of living.
Yeah. Maybe they just treated it differently because it's in the enterprise fund.
Because they're
Okay.
in the middle of negotiations this year.
Right.
So, okay, and it is an enterprise fund, so they have to, okay. Do you see this in your enterprise funds ever?
Okay.
Are they union?
Okay, go ahead.
So, I did ask about the, salaries. We said we were gonna ask about that. And I got two explanations on the vacant positions being budgeted at a higher than step one. This also might help explain some of the out of grade. So first, he answers it in the official way, considered filling this position as a craftsman, as a physician who can perform the duties of a higher person, the motor engine operator. And they also are required to have licenses, and certain experience is valuable, he says, to the operation. And that the max of the MEO, which was motor equipment operator, which was one of the positions I was questioning, is the midpoint of the water systems maintenance craftsman. But the real explanation comes with, in general, Arlington's pay scale lags behind our comparable communities. I didn't suggest this, but I think it's the right answer. Hiring physicians at minimum makes it challenging to find qualified candidates, especially in the areas of mechanics. So that's the explanation about why they're not budgeted, and it's an exception about why they're not at step one.
Okay.
So the next section is kind of easy. Is the indirect charges water. These are the same amounts, just split in half, that we just covered in the sewer collection system.
Where are the stipends in the previous section? I don't see them on the detail.
I'm sorry, Peter, say that again?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but 5260, the stipends?
Yes.
Sometimes they're shown in the salary detail, but I don't see them there. Who gets the stipends?
Well, we don't get an employee breakdown for water and sewer.
On page 173, it sure looks like one.
So that's. I can ask about the
We
stipend.
don't get that part of it anyway.
No.
Never mind.
I can ask about the stipend and email you. It's the same as every year, but I can certainly give you an explanation about what it is. I guess I didn't ask it because it's been constant every year. Is that okay, Peter?
Sure.
I mean, I don't think I think the stipends flow. Depends on who's moved up to take over a foreman's position.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So it's not a stipend like to a tree manager or somebody like that. It's a stipend if the craftsman all of a sudden takes over the foreman's position. At a grade, yeah. I
Okay.
believe that's how it works.
No, that's how out of grade pay.
That's what I meant.
That's
Not
out
only how out of
that's
grade
out of
pay,
grade
but
pay.
it may also be how stipend works too.
Right.
but
Yeah.
I will look into it. So, okay, back to the indirect charges and water. By the way, the workman's comp is 1,000 instead of 5,000 in the sewer collection system. But again, so the total impact of that is $9,500. So again, not questioning that until the fall, I'll ask Sandy. So there's the indirect charges and water of $1,176,373 that we explained. And then there's the actual charges involved with distributing the water within Arlington, which is, maintaining the system and the various things associated with it. I was trying to wonder about the clothing allowance and the stipend, but
Okay.
What are other supplies and chemicals?
Okay, so as your bottom line, you're recommending the 805-3331?
yes, the bottom line is $8,053,331. And I move that we approve that as revised.
Second.
Okay, questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 325.
The 26th.
26, still.
26,
Yeah,
sorry.
Maybe 27 soon.
Okay, and the,
I'm going to save the exciting one for last. It's not really any more exciting or any less exciting than all the rest of them. Water sewer properties on page 171. But the good news is that salary and wages, we've already covered how we arrived to that. That's the 50-50 split. And the rest of all the amounts stayed constant, just like last year. So I asked about, I think, Great Meadows expense. another one of those lovely water and sewer questions, or sewer and water questions. So apparently, instead of taxes to Lexington, since we lease Great Meadows from them, we pay them $4,000 a year from the water and sewer budget. We think, we would easily speculate that that's because originally, a long time ago, the reservoir was going to be used for drinking water, and that's why Arlington procured the Great Meadows, because they flow into the reservoir. So that's, could explain why we have that assigned to water and sewer, $4,000 assigned to water and sewer. But no matter where you move it, we still pay it. So.
I know. So we budget this. Do we have any idea how Lexington comes up with its cost?
Well, do we pay that to Lexington, or is that just expenses?
No, we paid to Lexington. I already asked about it. He says we paid to Lexington.
Except for 2657 as an actual, they must have some formula.
Okay, can I recommend that it's pretty small, and it's 20 of 12, and we still have 2 other budgets to go through, plus we have to, I guess, revote 3 warrant articles, so.
Okay.
Now, is this just, it's the combination of the budgets we've already voted on, is it not?
Yep. Well, actually, no, just the rest of it, the bottom, the summary is yes.
Okay.
The rest of it's the water and sewer, the water debt service, including the rehab water mains for $100,000, which was the amount from the warrant article, less than what we're actually borrowing. So, there's any, and then there's maintaining there's the capital outlay for maintaining the water system.
Okay.
And
Do we need to vote on this?
Total it up?
Yes, total it up.
Okay. So the total for the water distribution system is $9,987,928, and I recommend we approve that as revised.
Second.
We've already voted for 805,331.
Yeah, I think this is an amendment to the last vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so this,
Yeah, there was a.
Oh, I see,
there
this
was
is
a
subtotal.
We voted the subtotal.
Right.
Okay, so we'll vote again.
okay, so let's,
Second, by the way. Nobody seconded it.
Work us there.
okay, let's cancel the vote. Retract the vote on the 8,053,331 and substitute a vote for 9,987,928. That's what we should have voted, I jumped the gun.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's been made and seconded. Discussion, questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? 326.
Sorry, I'm lost. Where are you?
171.
Page 171.
Yeah.
We just voted 9,987,928
Okay, thank you.
and retracted the vote on the 8 million before that.
We shouldn't have total water distribution printed twice in that, under 817, it shouldn't be there, frankly. It should be subtotal or something, but that's the false total. Yeah.
Okay, Grant, thank you. I know this is a very complex topic and you did a thorough job.
Always a pleasure, thank you.
Okay. Recreation and Rink.
All right. Okay, I sent you all lots of information, tried to do, you looking at the budget. The issue was, they took things out of the revolving funds and put them into the enterprise funds to be more transparent. So for the first year, it made it more difficult. But, let's see, so the big difference in salaries and wages will be wanting to hire that assistant director who will split his time between direct and middle. And also, the director has now, instead of doing a 50-50 split, I think did an 80-20 split. So that helps account for that. If you look on in information that I emailed to y'all. Yeah, it's really just, that big change is really just adding the assistant director and add some admin hours, and then changing how the funds, supposedly can't pay salaries out of revolving funds, so now they're in the enterprise fund.
So if you went down further, which I didn't the first time, we would go down through, it shows the revolving funds and then the enterprise funds and then the total, the combination of the two, which is basically what we're voting.
Right, and so the temp salaries is large because that's paying all the people who run the different programs, so they're all temps. They teach one program. Let's see, what else do we want to say about that? The other purchase services is really contracted programs that are outsourced. The jobs program is a seasonal program. The res expense is the pump, getting a new pump. And the water bodies people explain how old and it's put together with state. Let's see, what else do I want to say? Any overtime is from part-time people. Managing res, what else is different here? There's a bunch of, big differences. Oh, the other thing to know about the revolving fund is, the money comes in the spring for summer programs, and so you have to wait and, use it then, but that's why at some point there's a whole bunch of money, and then it's all being used to pay for the programs next season. Let's see, what else do I want to say about that? The Gibbs, they're now renting space in the Gibbs. Well, because I asked that question about basketball, so that's where they do the basketball. And they also have rented space in the modulars that were in Thompson School. And I mentioned that their preschool program is on Mass Ave, so they have to rent space for that. What else? Let's see if there's anything else on the sheet that he sent out that was more apples to apples. I don't think so. And I'd asked you to look at the bottom lines because ultimately they're not much different. It's just how the stuff was paid for.
So we should try to, so basically, most of, probably 90% of all these changes are what comes out of the revolving fund.
Right, and it's not in the enterprise fund where it's supposed to be.
So we need to figure out a way to show that somehow.
Well, I think if you explain it this year and next year, then you'll have apples to apples again, because
Right.
it'll be coming out the same way. So this is the hard year, the transition
I'm sure Alan
year.
could be creative.
A really short summary of.
Right. So, why was this not here?
So are you recommending the 1,787,892 for revenues and expenditures?
Yeah, let's say yes, but I'm trying to figure out how he got a slightly different number. But yes, I will ask that.
Well, wait, because you gave us a new sheet at one point or no?
Wait, let me see.
I don't think so.
I emailed it to you.
And the total was the same?
No, he made it slightly less, and I'll have to.
Okay.
So it's slightly less than it was, which is, it's now $1,786,150.
Right.
Okay, so 1,000,000,
86 or 76?
786.
150.
Okay, Mary Margaret, what is the number?
Total $1,786,150 for revenues.
For both?
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Okay, 1,786,150 revenues and expenditures. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, okay. Questions? David?
So you mentioned this is like, so what's the percentage increase from last year? Like, you know, if you add both together, you know, we're moving different buckets, but what did we spend last year in the combined versus this year? You said it was like a negligible increase?
Right, if you look, I mean, if you just looked on last year's budget, in the budget book.
So the change.
Yeah, but we're spending 1,706,000 this year. What are, like, in combined revolving and enterprise, what you know, like, offhand, what was the sum of the last year?
Well, sort of apples to apples, last year.
Yeah, apples to apples.
There was the 639,000 something from the enterprise fund, and this year it's 690,779.
Right. So, yeah, on the last,
Oh, okay, so 630 to 690.
Whereas if you go down the email she sent, there's a place where it takes the budget and it splits it up between what's from the revolving fund and what's from the enterprise fund.
Right.
Just what's from the enterprise fund, which is the apple to compare to last year.
right,
Okay.
so,
Right.
1,786,150.
Yep, that was very helpful.
Well,
Okay.
John and Sandy did.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of 1,786,150 for expenditures and revenue, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, favorable action, unanimous. 326, rink.
Okay, the rink is a little less complicated. So let me just see some things we wanted to point out. Which, we already talked about, he looked at market value, and that's why he's not increasing the fees for rental of the rink. I mean, not market value, but look at the market. Let's see. All right, so the rink is paying part of the assistant director, and that assistant director is the new position. There's been an increase in overtime and contractual obligations, an increase in the refrigeration contract, and a proper alignment of natural gas and vehicle fuel. I guess it was not pulled out correctly. So, let's see. Oh, he said we weren't properly funding maintenance, refrigeration, and energy, so that's why he's putting different numbers to them for this year, and, okay. So, let me see if there was anything else he said about that. Oh, they're doing some ADA work, work for disabled, to make sure that that the rink itself is accessible, that the building is accessible. Let's see. I think that was basically the comments he had to make, so otherwise, not much has changed.
The other thing he said was that in 2 years, we're going to have to increase the rate.
No, it's good. Right, it's just their amount, their stamp.
Okay, is your motion still as printed, 626,746?
No, it's
No, because, again, I didn't recognize that it made that difference. But it's gonna have to be 632,521.
I'm sorry?
632,521, and I will ask him what the little difference is in both of those budgets and just send you an email.
Okay, so it's 632,521 revenues and expenditures.
Yeah.
Questions? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Now, I want to recheck 3 articles. And Peter would like us to revote 3, which he didn't think we had done. Okay, so Article 36 is town celebrations. This is the Patriots' Day Parade, the display of flags on graves of veterans, and Town Day celebration for a total of $15,167. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, a second. Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's voted. Miscellaneous, this is for appropriation legal defense fund, but basically indemnification of medical costs, $9,399. Do I have a motion? Second? Okay, any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And 40 is the Harry Barber, $7,500. This is the money we set aside each year.
We voted that the very first day.
Oh, well, okay, let's just revote it. Do I have a motion for $7,500 for Article 40?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's done. And I need one more grant of authority, if you will. Okay, so you've given us the authority when we had the school budget in to authorize Alan and I to change the school appropriation if the House Ways and Means Committee recommendation differs from the Governor, Chapter 70. So we've already done that. Earlier today, you've authorized us to increase or decrease the override stabilization fund depending on the House Ways and Means Committee and any other events. What I'd like is the authorization to increase snow and ice by any excess remaining in the manager's budgets below 3.25% increase. So, you know, there's been a few thousand here and a few thousand there. Just to make everything come out, I don't anticipate it'll be very much money, but to increase the snow and ice budget with any remaining pieces.
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, this is really, really important. Alan and John are going to be wrapping up the budgets this week, hopefully, or early next week. And he's going to email them to Sandy, so Sandy's going to go through. He's also going to email them to you guys. You need to take your budgets, take what we voted, and make sure that what is in there is accurate. And then the other thing is, check the footnotes that are there, because sometimes these footnotes, you get carried over from prior years, but they no longer mean anything. So check to make sure the footnotes are accurate. If they're still there, or if they're not needed anymore, get rid of them. Or play town meeting member. Look at that, follow that across and say, you know, if I was a town meeting member, I'd ask a question about that, and then we'll suggest maybe a small footnote we could put in to head that off.
Focus on the big changes or something. That's what people look at it. If it changes 3%, nobody cares. If it changes 2,000%, there's a question.
Right, so you know, sometimes we could do that with a footnote. Also, the other thing is, especially in police, fire, and public works, there's the thing where it has 5 motor equipment operators, but yet they added a motor equipment operator. So now it can't say 5, now it's got to say 5, 5, and 6. So you got to just follow the salary. So all these little things, please get that so it's accurate as possible, because if there's any discrepancy, I got to answer it before 300 people, and I'd prefer not to. Okay, is there any business, any other business before the committee? I want to thank you all. I know we stayed late today, but take Wednesday night off. It's candidates night. Expect everybody to be there. And Liz, could you cancel Wednesday night's meeting? Okay. Any business? Meeting adjourned.